Broken Fathers podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. If you are going through the family law court process, particularly as a father, then this podcast may be relevant to what you may experience. Some things we discuss in these episodes may be triggering, and if you suffer from any form of mental health related conditions or subject to domestic or family violence and need any assistance, then please call 1-800-RESPECT and Lifeline. The views and experiences discussed by people on our show are not necessarily the views and opinions of Broken Fathers podcast or their guest speakers. We strongly advise you seek your own independent legal and professional advice, as the Broken Fathers podcast will not be liable, answerable, or accountable for any loss or damage or litigation resulting from discussions on our platform. Right, this podcast is now in session. Hold on, guys. The judge is running late to court. So whilst we wait, I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our platinum sponsor, Straight Up Construction. At Straight Up Construction, they take pride in delivering high-end work across every trade. From new builds to renovations, no job is too big or too small. Director Luke Miller and his dedicated team tackle every project with integrity, hard work, honesty, and a commitment to delivering superior quality results every time. Straight Up Construction is built on the belief that strong foundations matter just as much in the bones of a home as they do in the heart of one. Families should stand strong, and every loving parent should maintain their right to be a part of their children's lives. Straight Up Construction believes that in true Aussie spirit, everyone deserves a fair go. That's why we're proud to have Straight Up Construction as our platinum sponsor. With their support, we continue to produce the Broken Fathers podcast and shine a light on the struggles of men who have been let down by the system. Good afternoon, Broken Fathers listeners. Welcome to another episode. Today I'm joined with a broken father from Wollongong. He's 42 years old. He runs a family locksmith business of 20 years, and he's joined here with his partner Yasenka, who's a teacher. They've flown up here today from Wollongong. Welcome, guys. How are we?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having us.
No, thank you. First of all, appreciate you guys flying up. And before we crack into the family court side of things with all my guests, I like to get to know a little bit about them, where they were from, where they were born, where they grew up. So I'll hand over to you, mate. Where were you born, mate?
Thank you. Born in Wollongong. Pretty normal upbringing, as you could say. Parents were, father was in the army, mother was a nurse, had an older brother, as well as some stepbrothers, or some half-brothers, we'd call them, from my father's previous marriage. Again, funny story that he was one of the first people that went and he was married beforehand, went to court and said, no, we just want to split and we want it effective immediately straight away. And the judge just went, and all the lawyers were laughing at him, saying that doesn't happen. And that day they walked out divorced.
No way.
Yeah, that was...
What year was that?
Ooh, probably over 50 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. 80s? Nah, before that probably, yeah. And they had 2 kids.
Yep.
And they just split. That was it. Done and dusted as of today.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, all the lawyers were crazy about that. But that's what he did. He was just like that. So pretty normal upbringing, as I said. Eldest brother was pretty focused on what my father did. I was pretty focused on everything else. Played cricket. And then, pretty much just on from that. Didn't want to do the family business at first. Was more interested in chasing women and drinking, pretty much. That was the upbringing.
Yep. With
friends, whatnot. And then after school, got alcohol and all that, so you need money for that. So spoke to my parents and got a job with them. And then it was generally, I think it was about 2003. My brother passed away, and then that drew me back into the family business long term, get the apprenticeship, do all that type of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that was pretty much found, and then sort of in and out of girlfriends until I met my ex, which was roughly around about 2002 is when I met my ex-wife. So I knew her before my brother passed away, but I didn't. It sort of went on from there.
Mate, I'll rewind back a bit. Your old man was a major in the army?
Yeah, so he was he was in the army originally.
Yep.
And he ran some, I don't know exactly because some of it doesn't talk about.
Yep.
But then he ran 26 RCU cadet unit for a number of years.
Yep.
Once he left, that was to get, be more involved with that army regimental type thing after he left. And then after he left that, he did ran Sydney Boys High School cadet unit for a bit.
Yep.
And then after he left that, the only way, everyone wanted him out, was reaching retirement age. So, yeah, they pretty much gave him a promotion to get him out.
Yeah, right.
And then, ended as a major.
Well, what was life like growing up in home with a dad that was in the army?
Look, when I was a kid, I guess I probably didn't see it as much because he did a lot of that when I was very young. So it meant a lot of camping, and I didn't see him a lot. He was a heavy smoker, as was mum at the time.
Yep.
And I guess in many cases, the mother sees the downside of smoking more than anyone else, so she sort of ran out of that. But it was more focused. I saw it when Army cadets were around. So my brother joined. They were running the cadet unit, and it was pretty much expected, hey, you need to go in it as well. So that was difficult, especially at that stage. I was overweight, because I was only interested in some gaming and hanging out with mates. I didn't want to do anything else, So as you can imagine, and you know all about it, if you got a guy that's, even though it was Army cadets, it was still sort of, going to all those camps, and you're this kid that's a little bit heavier than everyone else. Wasn't treated too well, but it was what it is. I enjoyed the social part of it, the camping. I loved camping.
I hate camping.
Really?
I hate camping.
Loved it.
I hate it.
Camping under hoochies.
Yeah, sweet.
Camping under hoochies, they were terrible. Funny story. I remember when I was a much younger kid, we were camping in, it was a cadet camp. I was asleep, and all I remember is waking up, and there was water everywhere, and it had been started pissing down, and the river that were close burst its banks, and so everyone was just running around everywhere, going crazy. And the only reason why my tent hadn't gone, because by then my mum was just like, I want a proper tent. She was a lieutenant in the Army cadets. Yeah, so she come and wake me up, and time to go. Like, we need to get in the Unimogs and get the hell out of here. Everything just got rushed, thrown away and taken away with the river. So yeah, it was tough. But probably more so than not, I reckon we need more kids to do Army cadets and into the Army, because it taught a lot of things, because you got to do that. You got to learn some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think we should have compulsory, at least when you finish school, at least have 1 year service,
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. I mean, the last time they had, what was it? I think World War II, I think was the last time they had compulsory.
I actually don't know.
They did a lottery, actually. It was the last time they had
it. Did you hear about the lottery?
I think that was the last time they had compulsory.
Yeah, I think they went off the day you were born, if they picked your number. Something like that.
Yeah. And not many people like that. So,
no. So did you hear the word army brat, the terminology? Yeah, army brat. Real quick, if you don't mind me asking, your brother.
Yes.
How did he pass?
So he was epileptic, had epilepsy.
Yep.
Which, for anyone would be a massive thing to get past. Couldn't drive, and if he had a fit, he couldn't drive for, I think it was about a year after, if he had a fit. So I remember actually very clearly, it was in March. Funny story, because my ex-wife, she actually hadn't met my brother, and they'd spoken on the phone a few times. And I'd always stay over there because I wasn't very close with my dad and my mum at the time. So because they only lived not far from where my parents were, I was like, I'll just stay there most of the time. I was, at the time thinking I'd rather stay with this woman than be at home, So, and I used to, I don't know if you fight with your brother all the time, I was just to fight all the time, and he was my older brother. So I remember getting a phone call from my dad, and he was crying. I've never heard my dad cry ever. I've never seen him cry. I've never heard him cry on anything, and he was born and he's always out on the phone. Get over it. So I jump in my V or Commodore, run over there, and as I get to the house, they're wheeling him out. Blue. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
How old were you at the time?
He was 23, so I would have been 21. So yeah, so he wasn't. Yeah, that's right. It wasn't 21 actually. It was before my 21st.
Yeah.
So, oh no, hang on. Yeah, no, it might have been actually. So yeah, so he was. They were wheeling him out, and there was 2 ambulances out the front, and they took him into the hospital. I told my parents, jump in the car, go, and I'll lock the house up and follow. And so when I got to the hospital, they said, yeah, it's confirmation.
Yeah, wow.
Had a so my parents found him face down on the in his room, blood everywhere. I think he's probably had a fit and
Hit his head
as he's fallen down and passed out and died.
Yeah, I remember before I joined the army, I used to run a nightclub called the Family Nightclub in Brisbane, and a 3-level club, lights, lasers, everything.
Yep.
And that was my first case with someone that was epileptic, because I had no idea. They kept coming in the club and they kept passing out. I was like, what's wrong with this person? And my mate at the time, the manager, he said, oh, he's epileptic, we're going to have to ban him because he keeps coming back and he keeps passing out. And yeah, I don't know how that works. The lights has some causes.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, I mean, my brother, like, we would be at dinner, we'd just be sitting down at the dinner table, and he would just start grabbing the table, just have convulsions.
Do they have dogs for them and they know when it's about to happen? They do, right?
They can. When he was on the right medicine, he was fine. Like, you wouldn't even know. You'd never have anything.
Hey guys, just a quick shout out to our gold sponsors. MCH Industries are a mining maintenance specialist company supplying solutions to the coal mining industry in the Bowen Basin and regional New South Wales. They supply superintendents, supervisors, leading hands, diesel fitters, tyre fitters, auto electricians, HV electricians, and trade assistants to assist. The mining one-stop shop for mechanical trades. MCH Industries are always looking for good blokes to jump on the team, so check out their Instagram for more details. And are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? There's only one name that's been leading the way for over 123 years, Ray White. Ray White isn't just another real estate brand. It's a family business built on ambition, trust, and leadership. Today, it stands as the largest real estate group in Australasia, connecting people with homes and investments across the country. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or looking for that perfect home, Ray White is committed to delivering authentic, local expertise. Because real estate isn't just about properties, it's about people, communities, and futures. And when it comes to trusted leadership, meet Alex Ilyan, an ex-army veteran turned dedicated real estate agent. Alex knows what it means to serve, to strategize, and to get the job done. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or just have questions, Alex is here to guide you every step of the way, servicing the Geelong, Bellarine, and Surf Coast areas. Ray White, the name you can trust in real estate.
For years, I blamed myself because, when you fight. When he was younger, he KO'd me so hard one time, and I got up, and he seen that I was pretty pissed off. And we got outside, and I threw a plank of timber at him, hit him in the head, knocked him out. Had epilepsy after that.
Oh really?
Yeah. Well, that's when
they found out.
That's when they noticed it. And look, it has been said that it is possible. There has been I've heard like rugby league players and rugby union players get a hard knock and they haven't. So there's no, like, they don't say, doctors can't say provenly that it is proven, but yeah. So,
mate, what type of impact did this have on you and the family?
Pretty severe. I stayed away from the house pretty much entirely after that. Didn't go out drinking for months, and then even going out, like, you everything would tip you off, like like even just we went out once. The first time we went out, like, his song came on, like and I lost it, or if someone you push people back because you're not mentally right, so took years, mate. Took years, and it's over 2003, so that's at 22 years.
Yeah.
So
All right, mate. So you're 21 now. Your brother's
Yep.
passed away. You now involved in the family business?
I was previously.
Who was?
The family business, we had two shops. We had one in Wollongong, one down in Nowra.
Yep.
I didn't want to have any much really to do with my parents. So my dad said, look, give you a car and you can go and work down in Nowra. So I worked down there for roughly about 18 months. And then, yeah, as I said, at the same time that happened, my mum said, no, you're not working down there anymore. We want you close by. Understandably. A couple of months after he passed away, he said, we want you to do the apprenticeship. And I said, yep, let's do it. So I got pretty much into it. And I was with my ex then at that stage.
Okay. So where to from here? You're doing your apprenticeship. You've now met your ex.
Yep.
This is your ex that you've gone to court with?
Yes.
Yep. Where to from here? I'll let you guide it in.
Pretty much everything's hunky-dory, you know. There's no problems. You know, there's, probably some problems. I think, you know, you probably mentioned in some other things, it's now you see some things, you know, like there's some controlling behaviour, but like 99% of it's fine. It's perfect almost. Around that stage, I'm starting to think about my weight a bit more and the way I look, and, you know, I don't want to, I don't want to be like this and stuff like that. You know, so, and at the same time, we're going out, we're drinking almost, you know, spending my pay packet almost every week. And, you know, one of the great things about being a bigger bloke is, you know, $200 probably doesn't cover you that much. You know, you're going out and you're drinking a case of beer and a couple of bottles of Jim Beam or something like that, and that's it, you know, it's covering it. So we're just drinking lots, you know, because that's, you know, after my brother passed away, when I did finally go out a lot, it was just, you know, using alcohol to
destroying yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so around that time, it was going out, and it was around about, like top of my head, we would go from there and then looked at, you know, obviously we had a break actually. We had around about 3 months. 3 months break.
How long were you together for before you had the break?
Probably around about 2 years.
Okay, yep.
A year and a half, I think it would have been.
Yep.
And in that break, I went off with a couple of mates, and we sort of, actually we were just talking about it just before, I came up to surfers and, you know, single surfers, and then went back there, got back together with her, and yeah, pretty much just went from there, looked at buying a house. So we bought a house in around 2005, 2006 at this stage. Got married, bought the house first, got married after that. Again, you know, that's not the timeline that most of our parents wanted. You know, you got to be married first, then get a house. And then, and we talk about this all the time, right? This is this push towards, as a kid, you get older, find someone, get married, have kids. And for me, I thought that was just the norm as well, you know. And we did that, and you know, my oldest son was born 2010, and but before that, we'd already had like some troublesome times. That happened through me as well. I wasn't the best partner. Probably always trying to focus on it. Was there something better out there? I did some stupid stuff with, you know, not cheating, but I suppose emotional cheating, and that wasn't right. But we got past that and we moved on and we had kids. So around about 2010, little son was born. That was just probably one of the most amazingest, best times of my life. She went in, she had to have a Caesar because she had a heart problem. So they just said, no, you're not going to go through labour. So we went there, went into the hospital, and I think one of your previous episodes you mentioned that it's when you hold your son or your daughter in your arms the first time, it's like
Changes you.
It changes you, and it was even probably more so with my son. And the reason why I say that is because she had to have Caesar, but the spinal block didn't take, so they had to put her under to do the cut. So I wasn't allowed in there, and like all my other ones, I've been in there. So yeah, so did that, and then they called me out and they said, "Do you want to hold your son?" I said, where's me wife? And I said, no one's told me anything. I'm here kitted up, had me outfit on. And then, so she, they told me what had happened. And they said, your son's just in the other room. Let's go. I picked him up and I just like, I got to hold this guy forever. Protect him. Like, he's amazing. You know, they're looking up at you. They're, you know, just, it's crazy. Anyway, so, you know, first kid in the family, and in my in the wife's family, ex-wife's family, and it was just great. You know, honestly, it did. And I think what a lot of people think, you know, you have a kid to make things better. And it does do that. I think it does do that, definitely, for a short period of time. But then
The cracks start showing again.
It's a baby. It's a life form. It's crying. It's doing this, it's doing that. You know, I've got to work. She wasn't working. So
Stress load.
yeah, it's pretty full on. And it's like you put in place a plan of what you're going to do. You know, I'm working, so I need to have my sleep. But you still get up, you know, whatever. Yeah, so there was lots of cracks happening there. You know, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. You know, all that type of stuff. You're not holding him right. All this type of stuff. So we got to... would have been close to about when he was 3, and we started noticing a lot more things happening. So he got diagnosed autism.
Yep.
I would say roughly level 1, like not like incredibly smart. You wouldn't even know he is, but you know you see the lining up and the stacking and.
My daughter's autistic too.
Yeah. So you know it's you know you see that stuff and you think, you know, and I was in denial about it. I was like, nah, man, he's just a.
Just a kid doing kid things.
Yeah. So it was about 3, and then we had another one.
Sorry, Paul, just so I get the time right. So 2010 you had your first son, and then mate 2013 you had your
13 had my daughter.
Yep.
So yeah, she was born. She was Caesar, but everything was okay there.
Between 2010, your first son and your first daughter, how were things out during the 3 years, relationship wise?
Look, great cracks. Plenty of cracks, plenty of dramas with, you know, all sorts of things. You know, like money wise, when are you going back to work? We need money. You know, all this type of stuff.
Did she, up until this point, did she ever work? She just stay at home mum?
Through the whole, like when through the baby time? Yeah, she did. She went back to work. We were very lucky actually. Her parents, so her dad worked in the steelworks, but he'd retired about now. So, and he was also a carpenter builder, so that sort of affected us. And I'll bring up that a little bit later. But her mum was retired, had been for many years. And she would come and look after my son. And so she would do an early shift in the morning where she was working. So then by the time that I was sort of looking at going to work, she was, you know, finishing. So it worked out well. And it was a couple of hours, you know, like it was enough to cover that. So yeah, she worked and helped out for part of that. But obviously by the time she got back to work, you know, she was back pregnant again. So that was that case. And then, yeah, about as I said, 2013 was when the daughter was born.
Yep.
And, mate, that was a whole new experience as well.
I haven't had a second child, so was it a different experience? Was it the same, like the feeling wise?
Look.
Can't explain it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain because you're there, right? And the first time you have a kid, it's just your first kid, you know? And that's a mind explosion, like the feeling, the everything, right? And then when the second one comes along, so going back to the first one, you know, you're reading all the books, you're reading, like people are giving you advice galore, like do this, do that, you know, all this type of stuff. But it means nothing. Like how you raise your kid, you know, you don't have to, don't even know to follow any of that, because as soon as that kid is at your house, all the books you've read, 9 times out of 10 you probably forget them. but it means nothing. It means nothing. You just got to keep this thing alive. That's it. So yeah, this thing. Well, it is. I mean, it's and look, yeah, and then when she came along, she was, and a lot of people will understand when I say this or know me, is that it felt different to me, because there's never been any girls in my family, so it was like my eldest half brother, he had 3 kids. They're all boys. The next one down, he hasn't got any kids. And my brother had passed away, so he didn't have any kids. So there was boys in the family, but no girls. So this was epic, man. This was crazy, you know. And girls hit differently too, you know. Like, I mean, not to take away from my son, but I was really close to her. And because with the autism for my son, he formed a very close relationship with my ex.
I feel like that's in general, hey, like mums, daughters will always form a better relationship with the father.
Yeah.
Sons with the mum.
Yeah, 100%. I'm pretty close to my mum as opposed to my dad. So, yeah, so 2013, she came. And from there, it was pretty smooth sailing. I think we were probably very focused on trying to treat and trying to look after my son's autism. And my daughter at the time, I could see that happening, and I was just like, oh, I want to spend time with her and sort of... So bedtime was like very much my my ex-wife would be putting him to bed, and she would cling on to him for like an hour before bed. So I was putting my daughter to bed. So I did a lot of time there. And I worked a lot, and much of my work was 24 hours as well. So like...
Getting caught out.
Yeah. So sleep was premium, but also was, you know, like I wanted to spend as much time with them as I can. You still try and get them to sleep as soon as possible. So, you know, try and have some quiet time with your missus as well. So I think there was a lot of cracks in through all of that. And it wasn't until eldest is about six now, and my daughter is about 3, about 2016. And this is basically the kicker, what I like to call the kicker, because there's been plenty of times where I'd had fights, and like I'd just go off to a mate's house, or you know, or go home to my parents or something like that, you know, or even just go to work and just go off at everyone about how shit being married is, you know. And then each Boxing Day, I do a bit of a ritual with my best mate. We watch Boxing Day test at his house or my house. And ex-wife came along with the 2 kids. And I said, that's fine. I said, you can go outside and spend time with his missus. It'd be fun. Great. And I got home that night, and I got a message from my mate just saying, hey, mate, all she was doing outside is blasting you. And I said, what do you mean? Blasting, calling you all sorts of names. Hopeless, all this type of stuff. Arsehole. Sitting in there watching the cricket while I'm out here, you know, all this type of stuff. And I've just gone, rightio. And something just clicked. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you had that.
Enough's enough?
Yeah, it was just like, you had all these years where you know, there's cracks and there's all this, but then you just think, what are we doing? You know, and a lot of those times I look back and you think, well, hang on, but what about all the family things? You know, I'm letting them down if I leave them, or the friends. Oh, you know.
Do you pause you there? Do you feel like, because that happened with me, in my head, I'm thinking, what are we doing? But I used to think, you know what? I want to do this for my daughter. I want to be a family. But then there was that, well, am I happy? Is she happy? I rather my daughter be under 2 happy roofs than 1 unhappy roof. But it was always this back and forth in my head, you know, wasn't too sure what to do, back and forth, and months go by, years go by, and I think eventually gets to a point where you just think, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. I've had friends that have said to me, "Oh, like I'll wait until the kids are older, because it's better that we're together." And I'm like, now I'll say to them, "No, it's not. What's the use of two of you being unhappy, right?" And I know some couples that have gone and they've done the whole, all right, we'll live under the same house, but we'll go and live our own lives.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah,
kids get older and they see that.
yeah.
So Boxing Day 2016, I just said to her, I sat her down after the kids were asleep, and I said, look, you know what? What happened at the dinner and the Boxing Day thing? I said, that's no good. So we can't do that. What are we doing? We sat down. And it's kind of surreal because I can't remember all of it, but I can remember definitely saying, look, this is it. We're done. We have to finish up here. So the next day, she took the kids and went and stayed at her parents for a few days, just saying, hey, I'll give you some time to calm down and whatnot. But nah, I was done. And it's funny because I reference it back to conversations I was having with this Sheila across the road at the Cowtex where I worked, and she was this 20-something-year-old girl. Never thought anything, and I just started talking to her about it. And she would say stuff as well. She's like, you don't have to be in this. You got to look after yourself. And I think that is, I wouldn't say it was a reason why I left, but it's like, hey, this is,
Yeah.
I need that be happy, man. Like, and your kids pick up on your happiness. If you're upset, and not just upset, say, you had a car crash or something like that. If you're mentally and physically drained from, it's like, and the best way I can explain it is you're coming home from work, sitting in the car, and you don't want to go inside. I used to do that all the time. I'd just sit there in the car, and I used to do that, and she would then, like, because she'd know when I'd get home, and sometimes what I'd say is I'm off on doing a job, just because I didn't want to come home.
Fuck, that's not good, eh? Wow.
And it's killing at you, right? Like it's draining you because your
safe haven, your home. He's not
but
home.
Your kids are there as well. You're dying to see them. You're dying to spend time with them. So you can't, like, what's going on?
Yeah, your safe space isn't very.
Exactly.
It's not safe.
And there's going to be a drama as soon as they're in bed. And our kids used to go to bed, roughly 8:30ish. So, by the time afterwards, it's going to be like.
It's going to be on. Yeah.
So I went on about, I think it was about a couple of weeks where we were talking and everything was like, honestly, everything was amicable.
So they still at her parents' place?
Yeah, for about look, the timeline I can't remember exactly,
right.
But it was roughly between about a couple of weeks.
Okay.
In that time, we were officially finished, and I told my parents, and she told her parents, and it was done. And I'd met someone in that time, which is crazy when I look back at it. But it was just it wasn't serious. It was just something fun. Yeah, so everything was great. Like, I was looking just the other day when I was looking some of it up, and it was just fine. I'd come over and see the kids. So around late January, I got an apartment.
So this is Jan 2017?
2017, yep. I got an apartment, and we sort of had a because I was working all the week, I'd just say we kind of just came up with a quick parenting plan, which is basically one night during the week where I'd just have them for dinner or whatever, and then the weekend, one or two of the weekends, depending. Like, most of the time it was just one weekend. Go and spend time with them and have them at my house. And even when I'd go and pick them up, I'd go over there, sit down at the front with them when I'm picking them up. Everything's fine. Just talking, chatting, no problems. And then it really kicked off when started talking about financials. Funny, it always happens with financials. So we, I I said, hey, we really need to look at what we're going to do with the house. And the funny thing about this is we bought this house and then we knew it was just an old housing commission house. And we knew that we needed a whole lot of work. And again, she was hardly working. I was working my ass off, but still low income. How are we going to pay for it? And so my ex's father is a tradesman, carpenter and builder, and he's built a couple of families' houses and stuff like that. So he's like, oh, I'll do it. So we all did that. So when it came to property settlement, and it's shit because I don't like to, I don't want to talk about figures, but it came back that, he did all this on the house and, the house is there. So her offer always was 100% to her, nothing to me. I picked up tens of thousands of dollars through, work and all this type of stuff and paid for the extensions and stuff like that. And it's like, that all went to the house. Where's mine? And she's like, oh, but you're going to kick me out. Not once did I say I was going to kick her out. So, as I said, that was generally all of that was around middle of 2017.
So June?
Yep.
Yep.
One of the other funny things is we had after around then she went and saw a lawyer because we said we don't want to get lawyers involved, right? That was always something we didn't want to do. And then she had a lot of friends that had been stung through DV cases, all this type of stuff. So obviously she's get a lawyer, he's going to ruin you, do this. So I got a letter from the lawyer or from her lawyer, one of the 4 that she had during the whole process, saying, we need all your financials, we need all this. We'll look at selling the house. Oh, cool. This is great. This will speed it along. I needed a lawyer. Didn't know who to go to. One of my best mates, his cousin was a lawyer. Talked to her. And then that's when I found out that lawyers are just so damn expensive. Getting charged crazy amounts for just emails. This is ridiculous. She thankfully went out on herself and then didn't end up charging me for a lot of stuff because basically considered me family, which was really good. So then when that started, we stopped doing pick up or drop off at that house. And we picked a public place. I'm like, cool. This is great for me. I live in Wollongong. She's in Unanderra, halfway. So we got out the front at a public place, which ended up being in front of a bottle, which she picked, not me.
It had CCTV?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which later on she used to say that it was a terrible place to drop off. And then and then after that, the second place to drop off was a public park. So, but anyway, that changes again later on. This stage, the kids are about 7 and 4. At each time at pick up, drop off, they're more than happy to spend time with me. They want more, going crazy, just more and more and more. So yeah, that was roughly around there. Week 1 was so parenting plan changed again. So it was roughly around about on 1 week, which again, this is what was weird for me. Like they work in fortnightly. Wednesday to Sunday 1 week, and then a Wednesday night dinner and video calls constantly. That was important. The kids need to keep seeing my face. And then I got accused.
This is where the allegations start?
Allegation. Well, no, this wasn't an allegation actually. This was, I guess it was. We were doing video calls, and this is where the control and the alienation starts.
What month were we at? Back end of the year?
October. Video calls are happening all the time.
Yep.
But this is roughly, I would say, mid 2000 and sorry, hang on, I'll just get it here. Yeah, so it's about mid 2017 to the end of 18.
Got you.
Don't quote me on that completely, but it's and so what was happening is that to stop and to start that alienation is obviously. It's a bit like the blueprint you're talking about. It's stopping the viewing of the father or the involvement So we went from video calls to say that I was showing. So one incident, I was on the chat to my son, and my daughter heard me on the phone. So she come out of the bath and she was naked, and I was at home by myself. She claimed in an email that I was showing the video to all sorts of people.
Same as me. That's what I got alleged of.
I said it's a live phone call that no one else was connected to. I was by myself. Don't know what you're talking about. That was a lot to do with, even now, like, I'll be, even with the kids now, not with my kids, but with, it's like, you want to spend time with them, and it's fun. Like, make it fun, right? And that was, she hadn't seen me at that stage for those video calls. Like, I think at that stage we were off video calls only once or twice a week. And so what do? You get rid of those, and then it moves into normal phone calls, which throughout the whole time, even though we're having phone calls every night, which changed anywhere from, say, 5 p.m. through to 7 p.m., but it had to be mentioned every single time what time it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And the reason why she did that is because she wanted to take him to dinner at that time, put him in the bath at that time. They're out playing with friends at that time. They never went out and played with friends. So it was all that started that alienation, right? To try and stop that.
Yeah.
So around that time as well, our lawyers said, look, why don't you just go to mediation? This will solve everything. I said, where do you do that? Relationships Australia. Probably one of the worst organisations in Australia.
How booked out were they at the time? Just for all the listeners at home, what to expect. Bear in mind, this is 2017.
Yeah, 2017, 20, almost moving on to 2018. At this stage, they weren't very booked out at all. I think we got in probably about a month's time.
Okay.
To make mention on that, in New South Wales, or at least where I live, Relationships Australia do not do mediation anymore.
Yeah, right. That's good to know for people.
I had to move on to, in a similar case, closer to where we are now, it was Uniting. It was provided by a Uniting church.
Yep.
So we did mediation and treated horribly. Again, big tattooed man.
Yeah.
What are you? You must be the problem. The lady we had was actually quite good. And again, because she was quite good and was, I guess, pretty fair in the way she was trying to organise it, my ex stopped it. I got an email saying she's not going to do mediation anymore. It's not going to go forward. So straight away, Section 60 I was handed out. Then emails upon emails. You're not going to do court. It's not the right thing to do. It's going to hurt our kids. All this type of stuff. And I said, well, let's make a parenting plan. Let's do this. And she's like, yeah, well, here's the parenting plan. Here's the offer for the house. Or unreasonable. 100% unreasonable. So we kind of worked okay with doing what we were doing. There was for around about 18 months, around about 12 months up until about the end of 2018, we had, I finally got a week, school holidays time with them. So I took them away camping. And at the end of that camping, I actually had a ball, man. My son went up to Bathurst and did all that. It was amazing. Went up to the zoo, Dubbo Zoo. I put him into Bathurst jail. Have you heard of that?
No.
It was Bathurst jail. We put him in there. I put him in the jail. I freaked him out because I closed the door because one of the guards there, or the people who run it, forgot to lock that, so I just closed the door on them.
Is that like a museum now? It's like shut down or something?
It's like a 1900s jail, right? And they put on shows and all this for they got
ghost tours or something.
Yeah, but they got actors that act like
inmates.
Yeah, inmates, and they try and jump over these freaking 20-foot walls, man. Absolutely crazy, great time. But at the start of that, my son, we're at this camping at this lake. And it wasn't sand like around it was all pebble. Chasing what are they? Pelicans, I think. on the thing, and he fell over. He scratched all his leg, crying. Crying. The autism sort of sets it off a little bit more, but he was fine. And then when we got back,
Was you there?
yeah,
That bruise got used against you? No?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Look,
That's where he's going.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah.
I know. Trust me, yeah. I know.
the scratch. It's funny because it's as soon as it happened, I thought, here we go.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'd have extreme anxiety when I had my daughter because if she fell over and scratched her,
Yeah,
you know, that's it.
Yep, 100%. But it wasn't even that. It wasn't the scratch at all. I mean, it was said, it was spoken about. So I'd been to Dubbo Zoo a few times, and at this instant, I thought you had to book to drive around, or get a. No, sorry, correction. I didn't. I thought you had to get a little golf cart to go around.
Yep.
You couldn't drive around. But we're sort of walking around a little bit, and I found out that you could drive around. I thought, kids, we could have drove around. And they're like, and my son's like, and that they weren't the fittest kids. And I thought, but it would be good for them to walk around, and you can stop a bit more and see things and, whatever. Anyway, so that night, my son's like, hey, Dad, I've got a bit of chafing. And I went, all right, we'll get some cream, put it on. No worries. Get back. Gets to about 2, so I think this was about a Sunday, and I was meant to pick him up on the Wednesday. I got an email before that.
I know.
Cancelled.
I've been down this road.
All care gone. I said to my lawyer, how can she do that? And this was when, and I look back on it now, and I'm like, this is what I mean. What makes her make the calls?
Mm.
Yeah, I get it. Like if they've been in hospital because they've been bashed or something, something serious. 100%.
Yep.
So my lawyer just said, no, that's it. We can't do anything. We just got to keep going through the right channels. Then I get a phone call from child support.
Child safety? Or
No, child support.
Yep.
This is how it went. Child support. Same day. Exact same day. We just had a request for child support. I said, yeah, I've got the kids this amount. I'm happy to pay, which I was. Fair enough. Also, probably right to say at this stage, I'm paying the mortgage.
Yep.
As well on the house. She's not working, so I'm just like, well, I'm working, no worries. And then I got a phone call from Fax.
From who?
Fax.
Family and Community Services.
So
Okay.
this is
I
where
feel like every state has a different
Yeah,
terminology. Just so I know for future.
I think in yours it's child safety or something.
Yeah. What do you call it? So family.
Family and Community Services. It used to be called, but it's DCJ now. So it's
I've seen
Department of
people commenting
Community and
DCJ.
Justice,
Yeah.
DCJ, and that's must be a New South Wales thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So they called and they asked
Child
about it.
Protective Services, that's what it is.
And I just said, look, this is what's happened. And she said, we've got a report that you've abused the kids. And I said, nah, this is what happened. She said, okay, no worries. And I never heard anything else. That was it. Which I was actually very surprised.
Did they call you in for face-to-face or just over the phone?
Over the phone. That was it. And again, in all fairness to them, that, if I'd seen, not in all fairness to them, I suppose if I'd seen that, it's actually, so moving on to another time, and this is what's interesting. I had my son had his ankle wrapped, and I thought, hey, what's that? And he was having trouble walking, and he twisted it home. I didn't ring fags. One time he got belted by his, he got a smack on his rear side by his grandfather, right? And it bruised. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Had I said anything, it probably would have come back against me.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, and again, this was all those steps that we talk about. Those steps to stop care, the care
Instruction guide, man.
yeah, exactly, and to stop you from any access to your kids. And because the longer they are away, the more they don't need you, the kids, right? Because they're just kids, man. They just and don't get me wrong. Throughout the whole period, whenever I did see them, so it wasn't too long after that. It was probably around about 3 or 4 months after that. I was allowed to see them. It was only a couple of hours, I think, during the day. or in the afternoon, sorry. And man, you should have seen their faces. Fuck, it was so good. Man, it was so good just to see them, and to and again, I'd seen them beforehand. I would still go to school drop off or school pickup, and I'd just sit in the car and watch them. And that's terrible. It was like, if you can see your kids and you can't go up, and again, I could have, but I was kind of wary because I didn't want to confuse them. It wasn't that I was scared about what was going to happen. It was just more that I was confused about what would go on. So anyway, that was 2018, end of 2018, I think it was. So again, throughout all of that, there was just emails galore going around trying to work out why you won't let me have time with them, all this type of stuff.
How's you pause you there real bit, because I know what it's like getting correspondence back and forth. How's your mental state at this point in time? Great? Taxing?
Yeah, man, it was, because I was lucky in the sense that my parents are pretty strong. It'd been a number of years now since my brother passed away, and they were like, Dad was back to probably full strength. And throughout all of this, he was very much like, and I this is the funniest thing. I remember talking to him a number of times, and he would say, "Just put it in a watertight compartment, mate. Put it at the back. You'll be all right." It doesn't always work that way,
Yeah.
and I guess you probably understand that a bit more being a military man. I'm sure a lot of the old guys in the army probably say the same thing.
Yeah.
So I know that during when my brother passed away, he done a lot of that. And again, what I didn't find out until later is that he went and got some help with it actually, which was surprising for me. So, but yeah, mentally, mate, yeah, it wasn't great. I probably used a lot of the free time to work and
Keep yourself busy.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
I found a lot of forgiveness in the bottom of a Jack Daniels bottle, but at the same time, I made a conscious decision that to get into the gym. It was one of 2000 so going back to 2017 was the first time I joined a gym, and I'd tried join a gym many years beforehand. And this was another thing, like it's that cohesive control. It goes both ways. I had the same thing with me. So money control at our household was like crazy. So I'd bring all this money in and it would go, but if it was for me, no. So I said, "Can we go and? I just want to get a membership to a gym when we're together."
No.
And she'd be like, "No." And then she'd go and spend $300-400 on ointments and medication for a horse that was dying. And I was,
It's crazy, yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't great. But the gym definitely helped me, and like I was going really well, And again, that's something that also probably pushes you, or pushes the ex, because you sort of, if you're trying to do well on the surface, and again, like gym or or she sees you with someone or something like that, that pushes it as well. So moving into end of 2019, we had the property settlement done, which was crazy for me. And this was also, again, no movement in any care for me. We had the kids part-time.
What's at this point, so 2019, you still got legal representation during the whole time?
Yep.
What are they telling you at this point in time? They sort of leading you on, looking back now? They were wasting your time? They hijacking your emotions?
I reckon
They were being fair?
my lawyer was... I told her about this podcast the other day, actually, and she says, I'm keen on to get on and look at it.
I think every lawyer's listening.
Yeah. I think, honestly, I think she had the best intentions. Had I been with another lawyer, probably not.
I hijacked it, yeah.
Which was quite evident with my ex, because she was at 3 or 4 different lawyers. But yeah, she was I think fairly decent. Her only thing I would say against her was that I don't think she probably had the balls to really push my point.
Yeah, well said. And I find that whenever I went to court, it was always like, "Oh, we don't want to push it too much." Why? And like Ben carried the
Yeah.
episode, he said it best. Don't be the passenger, be the driver.
Yeah.
And that's what I should have done. I should have said, no, this is what I want. Tell the judge, oh, no, I should have said, no, this is what I want. You're
Yeah.
speaking on behalf of me, but I didn't. I sat there thinking that they're doing what's best for me.
Well, yeah, that's
Better
right.
trust their advice, but really, both sides. I've never seen someone fear a judge so much. You know, oh no, we can't do this. We can't. Why? Just ask.
Yeah.
He says no.
Oh,
but just ask.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. In the couple of times that we went in front of the judge, it's like this fearful thing of the judge.
Right?
Like, and like, you know, we would know that they would know what judge is going to be there. And my lawyer would be like, oh, this judge is from Canberra. He's pretty good. He's pretty fair, you know.
This is a red flag in itself, right? In my opinion, my legal team would say we need to wait to see what judge you have because that's going to determine how we play.
Shouldn't matter.
And it shouldn't matter. It should not matter who we get. Bob, Smith, Sarah, black, white, brown. It's black and white. It's
It's the same as in, and I'll bring this back to rugby league, right? And you understand. Refs, impartial, right?
Yeah.
No, they're not impartial. The judges were unfortunately in all circumstances. It's like one of the judges, my lawyer said, oh yeah, he's fair, and the other one is like, oh, I hope we don't get him.
See, right? Isn't it?
And I'm like, how has that got anything to do with the fact? You know, like.
Yeah.
So just to bring in a reference to that, there was a case where I'm pretty sure it was just a mention. I thought it was a male judge, but we were just talking about that today. You said it was a female judge. They asked us to stand up, and it was only a mention, but I think the judge was just like, spoke to my ex.
I was in the picture at this point already.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in the picture at this stage. This is just moving forward just for this.
I'll come back to when you met Yasenka.
He or she was just like, listen, talking to my ex, those children have a right to have their father in their life. All children, barring major physical, you know, like rape or
Abuse
or,
or
you know, like anything that's going to really cause, it's crazy, right? Even in saying that, the kids should at some point then be able to choose whether they want their dad or their mother in their life, right? But at this stage, kids are young. They need to have both parents in their life. And that's what he said to her. And he goes, I want you guys to get together in mediation and work this out. I know you can do it. And then this is another case, bringing it to it like with my lawyer. Like, had I known that we would just keep going back and forth in mediation, I would have just walked away.
Yeah.
We go to, and again, like final hearing, right? Like final hearing is going to cost, depending on how many days you go, 30, 40, 50 grand a day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the money for that. But if I knew that we would get a decent, honest final hearing, I would have went to it. I honestly would have went to it. But like everyone just keeps saying, mediation is the best way, you know, fast track mediation. And then, you know, moving forward, the courts start doing that now because they're so inundated with cases. Yeah, fast track mediation. We'll get the ICL and all that. And again, that like moving forward on this, the ICL was involved.
Did you have a good ICL in your opinion?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, his opinion on the whole situation was very good. But again, what pool do they have? We had a family report done.
Good or bad?
Oh, great for us.
Great for you.
Again, moving forward, my current partner, she was involved with this as well as the kids.
So I'll pause there just so we don't lose track.
Yep.
So you've got your partner here joining us, Yasenka.
Yes. This was August 2018 that she was when I met her.
Yeah, so tell us about how you guys met.
Tinder.
You might just have to share the microphone. Actually, give us a quick rundown, Yasenka. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Oh, dear. Oh, my God. How long have you got? All right, run down quickly. I actually came to Australia as a refugee in 96.
Yep.
From Bosnia, the civil war in Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia. Probably everyone's heard about it, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, so I lived in Austria for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved with my family to Australia. I went to year 11 and 12 here, and then went on to study uni and teaching. And I was quite, in Bosnia, just regular middle-class family, I suppose. My dad had a business. Mum worked in an oil refinery. She was in engineering. And had a normal life up until the war hit. Although we kind of had some struggles getting out and all that, I would say, we did have a normal kind of life up until that point. And then actually coming out of Austria into Australia as a refugee, that was hard, but not as hard as some people had it. So my life was kind of tumultuous then, but then it kind of settled down. I also, finished my uni, started working, have been a teacher now for 23 years. Then met somebody, got married, had 3 kids, and then at the third, split up once, I think. Like any, I suppose, relationship had its cracks. But I think with me, because of my background, I don't think I was able to estimate the amount of dysfunction in the marriage. And I think my own kind of needs and issues, if you like. So I had a lot of kind of, things that I reflected on and changed over time, especially since Warwick and I met. But so kind of our timing was perfect because I had moved on from that marriage. That divorce was kind of, it was very taxing, but I had a different kind of experience in the sense that I think my tolerance for chaos and anger and bitterness was different because of the war and all the trauma that I had come from that already. Like, I always knew that no matter what, my kids would always come first. And whatever was best for them and me would always happen. And then when I kind of looked through my process of divorce and separation and whatever, I didn't go with the lawyers or family court, thankfully. My ex kind of agreed and we came to an agreement. It was horrible for a year or two, but eventually I think it got there and my kids were spared all this.
Great.
Yeah.
I think it's really, one of the mention with that is that she did go to a lawyer, and she mentioned one of the reasons, a number of the reasons why the marriage finished, and the lawyer was just like, "Hey,
You need to do this, X, Y, Z.
We can get him for this, we can get him for that. And I was like,
we can destroy him."
So this is why I think lawyers need to be held accountable, because I think, and I've met a lot of mothers, females that go there, they originally just go there, look, I just want to get a co-parenting plan, and they go, no,
we can
you
do
need
this.
to do this, DV. They're actually guiding DV, someone, you need to put a DV on them. And they kind of, I've had one like, I didn't, I was umming and ahhing, and they just kept convincing them, do this, and the lawyers need to be held accountable for that.
100%.
They're destroying
100%.
families,
It's just that like perception and that stereotype that it's always the guy that's the problem, and the woman should be the victim, and I don't know. Although in my case a lot of that was actually true, I just didn't want to go there. I was just done. I wanted to move on and see you later. So I was out of there. I was done. And that was, in hindsight, especially when we were dealing with your kind of court case and everything, I was like, oh my God, thank God I didn't go there. So I didn't. But then, maybe we met maybe how many years after? A couple of years. So 2015 I split up from my ex, and then we met in 2018. So the timing for us was perfect. Because at that point, we had both actually had some rebound relationships, and we just, I don't know, like I kind of gave up, but we were still both online and kind of just looking for different people and to, chat and go out on dinners and whatnot. Yeah, and then it just, I don't know, it just happened. And he was like the first person, and this is very interesting because you always have like your filters, like, and your, what's the word, your senses are up, like, just
guards up.
Talk guards up. Yes, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. And with him, it was always kind of, I just had this feeling that he was just like a very normal, calm person. I never, ever had any doubts that he was,
Get closer.
yeah. Even like sus or weird, because, with some guys, when you're first meeting, especially from online, you always have these kind of guards up. But yeah, no, we just kind of met. We chatted for a couple of weeks and we decided to meet up. We did a lot of video calling and like snaps and stuff. We sent that to each other. And I don't know, like to me, he just like felt like a normal person and somebody I wanted to get to know better. And we did. And then we met and within like, a month, we practically started living together.
Could you relate? Well, not that you went through, like
Yes.
you guys could relate.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Being parents, our kids, two of my kids and Warwick's kids are same age. And so we had a lot in common just from having come from quite, difficult marriages and breakups with narcissistic exes, like a lot of things that we had in common. But just as people as well, like we're both very social, very easygoing. Yeah, it was very...
Same energy.
Yes, we were vibing.
If you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you left Bosnia?
I was quite young. I think 92.
So how old were you at the
Austria.
time?
12.
12.
So, yeah.
Can you remember times there?
Yes,
Yeah.
very well. I remember everything.
Yeah, wow.
Yes.
We actually, was it like your dad was playing some videos, like VHS?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. The
yeah.
tapes.
VHS, and it was,
He had uploaded it.
they were crazy. Just seeing some young Yasenka in
Oh, it's a VHS footage of you guys when you were kids?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
In Germany.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
in Austria, sorry.
Yeah, 'cause
Austria.
We lived in the Alps because my auntie was working and then we fled to her,
Yep.
to the Alps, and we stayed there for about 4 years in a small village.
Yeah, wow. The judge I had for my DV trial was, she was Bosnian.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought,
Interesting.
obviously I can't say her name, but I just automatically thought, female, But you know what? When she asked me a question, I could have a full conversation, like this. I could talk.
Yeah.
She sat there, not like this family judge had to just couldn't get a word in. I could have a full conversation, and she saw it for what it is. I said, "No, I'm throwing this out." Like it restored. I got treated better in DV court, surprisingly,
Yeah.
than I did in family court. So she restored my faith in humanity. Like once you get to DV, I don't want anyone to have to go there, but when you do go there, have some faith because she saw it for what I was. No.
I think it was the case of like, even when I've spoken to friends who have been through court a number of times, and some of those people had the same judge in a couple of different
Yeah,
instances,
same
and
judge.
each time they've seen that judge,
What was it?
it was different.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Yeah. I talk.
He or she was different. Would give not one of my close mates, but a friend of mine who during this actually helped. He'd already been through the whole thing, and he was just like, "Hey, yeah, court's shit, but you'll get a verdict, right?" And he went 4 years, but he went through the whole process and got through it. And the judge, a number of times, would, like the first time he said it, he was like really, really not fair. Like he was like, "Mate, you're the problem," and then the next time,
That was like me.
totally different.
There was glimpses where he ripped my ex for breaching, and the next time he just didn't care. There's always these glimpses of hope, like here we go, and then the next time it's just a kick in the teeth. All right, so back on track. So you've met Yasenka.
Yeah.
20. We're in.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was 2018. I mean,
August,
I went
August.
forward before, and that was 2019 when the property settlement was done.
2019. So your youngest is probably 9 now. Your boy and your son and your daughter's probably 7 now. In 2019.
Yeah. So son, he'd be around about 9.
Yep.
Daughters, 7.
Seven,
So we're going through that.
ICL's good. Family report writer's good.
Well, you know what? Even before all of that, like the kids throughout the whole process, one of the benefits, and I can say this because this really helped us. It hindered a bit in the future, but one of the benefits of meeting someone that had kids is they understand, right? Like I'd had some partners that had kids and already been through it, but it wasn't until I met Yaz that we had that, and I introduced the kids to her and to the kids, and the kids just clicked, right? They loved it. Now, one of the problems I guess we had was two different types of backgrounds. You know,
This comes back to the Bosnian.
you know, it does. Like Europeans grow up differently, and their families run differently. Whereas I'm just, you know, I like as Yaz's daughter would say, I'm just white trash. But
No, she didn't say that.
no, she did say that.
Did she?
Yeah,
Really?
she was
She's a
white
teenager.
14-year-old teenage girls, man. Oh my god. But you know what? Like it comes across differently, and it would have actually been great. Like if we didn't have one parent, that we think, but mainly one parent causing a stir.
It was great, but it was too great. Because when we moved in together officially into a big house that we got for the whole family, and that was in March 2019, actually. So yeah, we're kind of in the right timeline.
Yep.
We then got a house together out of my house that I had with the kids. His kids were very happy. They wanted to come all the time. They didn't want to go back to their mums. They wanted to stay with my kids because we always did all these fun things with them. And obviously there was two other kids who were the same age. They got along so well. They had so many, new experiences, great things. The house was big enough for everyone. The area
they just
where
had
we
fun,
lived,
you
it
know,
was
like
lovely.
just kids having fun, you know.
They were just really happy, but
there was problems.
Yeah, they well, that's right. Like with kids, they would fight.
Yeah.
But they would
You
go
got 6
back.
kids. Oh no, well not 6 kids. We had 5 kids.
Five at the time.
Five kids in the house.
Yes.
You know, ranging from your eldest would have been what, 12.
12-ish,
Yeah, one of them was the eldest, right? He was the eldest, and then most of the other ones were sort of roughly
Similar
around the
in
same age.
Yeah.
So there was problems, and one of them was, my oldest got autism, so he was very much
Yeah, social skills.
social skills problem. But again, like we made it work.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't perfect.
But they would go
which-
back to their mum and tell
And tell
her
them the
how
problems.
great
I tell them
it was,
how
but
great
also
it
the
was.
things that would happen. And then that would always get amplified, and
Twisted
every time
and
there'd be an
twisted
email and
Yeah, like
pages and pages
Yeah,
of emails
I
and
know.
at the
Her
stupidest
youngest-
things.
so
Like,
her youngest would have, he was like, trying
5
to
or
compete,
6.
right? Trying to compete with everyone else, right? As the youngest kid always does in a family. So he would compete and play with my eldest, with my son, and then it maybe get a little bit too physical. So my son would go back and say, "Hey, this is what happened," and I'd get an email straight away. Oh, Yasenka's son did this and did that, and it's like,
oh,
mate,
pushed him
it was
or
just
something
two kids
grabbed the
playing around.
controller.
Like
It's
no
just
no
like-
one's hurt, no one's, oh, you're always taking their side, not your own son. So, it had issues, but it's like we made it work. We did what we could with the time, and it was like I would get on like numerous times when I drive them back. At times I would have my phone on and recording because I do that during drop off. I mean, again,
I had to do the same, change handover to protect myself.
and it wasn't exactly what you said, right? You said you had to. No, you didn't have to, but you knew that it was probably the best thing to do to protect you, right? So I did that, and there was a couple of times, every time, well, not even a couple of times, it was almost every time. But I remember one case in particular where I was dropping them off, and I had both my kids bawling their eyes out in the back of the car. I don't want to go home. I want to stay with you, Dad. I want to stay longer. Can't we do this next week? Can't we stay the whole week? Can't we do this? Can't we do that?
Well, what did the current? You guys have co-parent agreement in place at that time? Well,
Nothing
nothing,
official.
not in the official.
Oh, well, it was via the lawyers.
Yeah.
Through mediation, we worked it out, but it wasn't like we're talking a couple of nights.
Yeah.
Right.
Fortnight.
Couple of nights, a fortnight, and you can't have a meaningful relationship.
No, yeah, that's right.
We have Yasenka's kids week on, week off, right? You still don't have a meaningful relationship with them. So if you're not having full time, you're not, I then sent those videos where the kids are crying to my ex. Oh, you made that up. You
staged it.
You staged them. I don't know, but you can't stage your kids bawling their eyes out. Like unless you smack them or
I feel, what would you call your ex narcissistic controlling? Because I don't want to put the words in your mouth.
100%.
I feel like they always have a reason or excuse for something. Oh no, but you told them to do that, or you stage it. Like there's always an excuse for something.
Look, I'll say this, and it's one of the reasons why, and it's a hard thing to say, but after everything that we went through, they still need her.
Mm.
Right? She's still their mother, and as much as I dislike her, and over the years it's been hard, but she's still their mother, man. Like they like if something was to happen to her, it would just be like it'd be so bad for them. I just want to take up some time in their life. That's all. And everyone and moving forward to say, and we'll talk about the rest, but everyone keeps saying, when they're older, mate. When they're older, their adult life is more than their child life.
Yeah.
You don't get that back.
That's right.
I was looking at. I've only just started communicating with my daughter recently, and seeing the way she acts and talks, and I just got on her TikTok. She's just friended me on TikTok, and I know this is going forward, but she looking at the way she talks and the way that she moves, and I said to my partner last night, I just realised that I don't know who she is anymore, and that hit hard, man. That hit hard.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people tell me like it's all right. A lot of people comment, and I'm sure it's true for a lot of people. Like, they'll come searching, but
they don't always though.
They don't know, and I've heard some fathers say, "Listen, they just got brainwashed too much, and it was irreversible."
Yeah,
and I can see both. And even if my daughter does come back, it still doesn't change the birthdays, the Christmases. I can't get that back.
Do you know when your last one with Ben? That blew me out. How he had a room with all their presents.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So look, we what I thought was my lowest
wasn't until you found later on.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So 2000, I should mention this. Before this, I found out about one of my exes having got pregnant and had my youngest son actually. Probably another whole story, but
so this isn't the ex that you're in court with?
No. This is an ex that I was with before I met Yaz.
Yep.
Again, the timeline for this, I actually didn't look into this as much as I think you probably. If we met in 2018, it would have been.
It was November 2018 when she had the baby.
Yeah, so November 2018, my youngest son was born.
Yep.
I was at the birth. That was the first birth that I'd actually seen. That was what you would sort of say a normal birth. Natural birth. He was great. It was a hard time because I was experiencing so many different feelings, and this brings about your mental health as well, right? So I was reeling at this not spending time with my kids, and then so excited I've got this new chapter with Yasenka, and everything's hunky dory, it's like in that aspect, and then I find out about this person having this kid, and it's just like, and so at the same time I lost a whole lot of friends due to it as well, because we had before he was born I looked at adoption. I said, look, we don't love each other, neither of us can have this kid in our life, right? We need to do the best thing for this kid. And then I got backlash from everyone. How could you adopt this kid out? He's your kid. So when he was born, he just was, it wasn't going to happen.
Just for the listeners at home, just in case they're confused on the timeline. So this ex of yours, it was more of a sort of a very casual short-time fling? It wasn't a long...
Well, you know what? It was probably... it was casual in the sense that it was probably only around about 4 or so months.
4 or so months, yeah.
But this is... it's a whole new kettle of fish.
Yeah.
it's not to go too much into it, but she had planned this before, as much as she had 2 other kids, 2 other dads, so red flags, you know. Anyway, so that happened. Thankfully, this one, my partner stayed around. To her credit, she honestly, it was just without her, with that happening, mate. But it led into a much darker spiral. So we went overseas because we thought it might be the best. Yasenka here goes over and sees her family overseas every few years, couple of years. So she said, you need to come. You're coming. I thought, I can't get a lot of time off work, but you go first and then I'll go. I'd also had the settlement from the court, from the house, so I had a bit of money. Someone wasn't too happy that I flew back business.
Treat yourself.
Yeah. When she came back, she
It was a once in a lifetime. Now one ever comes.
Yeah. when she came back, she flew back with her kids, and her eldest threw up all over her.
In economy.
Yeah.
Yep. Business. Have you flew business?
I have, yeah.
It's pretty good,
You gotta do it once, you know.
No.
And then when I got back, I left the family business.
Yep.
I thought the trip would really fix who I was, but I realised it wasn't. It wasn't going the way I wanted it.
We talked about it for months and months, and then we said, let's do the holiday and see how you feel after the holiday. But things just got worse, I think, with everything else still. It just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
And it just just accumulating.
My kids didn't like the fact that I went overseas without them.
So where'd you go? Bosnia?
Bosnia.
Yeah. Is that the first time you've been overseas?
No.
I
did an overseas trip with my ex before we had kids.
Okay. Yep.
That was the first time.
Yep.
Which was great. Seen Germany and that. But when we went over, it was just Bosnia and Croatia and Montenegro. Yeah, Europe's beautiful. Amazing place. And as much as we had a great time, and it was a really big relationship builder between the 2 of us, but also my relationship with her kids. They loved it. It's an amazing time. So that was, then when we got back, I left the business, which was huge. I was the person that was going to run the business and take over. And that startled my parents a bit. I didn't really talk to them about it. I just said, no, this is what's happening. Towards the end of 2019, I started uni. I did a social media marketing course. Then quickly realised that I'm not really academic enough. So I'd write reports and do all the, what are they? The essays. And they just said, look, what you're saying is 100% right, but it's not academic enough. So I left. Needed to get a job, so I went back to my parents. They said they didn't have any work. So then I started a new job at another locksmith in King's Cross, working up there for a mob up there, which was another family business, much bigger.
Yep.
And that was the best thing I ever did. It was really good to just clear, new state,
Fresh start.
Yeah. Throughout all this time, we're still doing some mediation, trying to work out what's happening with the kids. I was travelling from Sydney, from King's Cross.
How long is that? How far is that? Hour?
An hour and a half to
yeah.
Yeah, because on the weeks that I had school pickup, I had to leave. I had to pick the kids up at 3. So, I told my work when I need these days off at this time. Now that was used against me from work. Like the boss there he started getting the shits that I was leaving, as well as we had mediation on the phone because, and this is going back previous, a few years before that, when with my daughter, my ex wanted to get her diagnosed. This is another thing, isn't it? Like not just diagnosed, right? But there's money that comes with diagnosis, right? A lot of money that the government pays up. After that, I got accused of approaching her during the meeting in an aggressive way. So then whenever, which I was, in all fairness, I was lucky I didn't have any DVO put against me.
Because remember we joked about this? Because he yelled, "Are you serious?" That was aggressive, apparently.
Well, there was a guy last week I spoke to. He sent a text message in capital letters, and that was aggressive. So they put a DV on him.
Yeah. Figure this, you know what, you say that, and like I'll write messages to people, and I'll do, like, I didn't realise that was yelling for some years. Apparently it means it's yelling at them.
What?
If you do...
All capital.
I just found that out 2 days ago. The guy told me. I was like,
No, it's yelling.
yeah, he goes, yeah, if you type something in capital letters, that's just yelling. It's
I just
aggressive.
use it as to stress the point, not yelling. But anyway, so then at every mediation, we couldn't have face to face, right? How can you discuss
I know.
and
I
talk
agree.
about anything when you're not face to face?
Which makes things so much harder and harder during that system. Oh, someone's got a deviate. Okay, then it makes the whole process harder.
But there was no deviate.
I know, but like in general, like you know.
I know, but that's what's stupid about it, right? So even with Relationships Australia, even with it, like, so when we first started Relationships Australia, going back previously, I was sitting here, she was sitting over there, and amicable. Yeah, there was a couple of stressful points we started to talk about and everything, but it was fine. But she obviously got told that it's better and it looks better in the courts by saying you're scared for your life. And it's funny because you have that, right? But then when we had the family, what's the family?
The family report writer.
Yeah.
Where they watch you for half an hour.
Yes.
Yeah. We actually got a very favourable thing on that, right? So
We did.
we had the massive report. We got a Senate looking at it, reading it, going, right, this is good, right? But
But we're talking like 2021?
no.
It
It might have been a little bit long, but it didn't mean anything because she just said, nah, that's not going to happen. You do all of these things. It's like the better parent courses that I got asked to do.
Circle security.
Yeah,
Yep.
did that.
Yeah.
Did that. We had about 5 guys in ours that were court appointed, right? So you had to do it.
Yep. Yeah. So was I.
So was I, I sat there and there's this, and it was a male presenter person, and he was just like, I know you all have to be here, and but you'll get something out of this. And I kind of looked at it like that. I said, well, yeah, obviously this is case. It's not until I look back at it now and I think this is bullshit, right? Why isn't she doing this?
Exactly. What? Her follow test. I had to do it. Why is she doing it?
Yeah.
It doesn't. Whatever she says, I had to go do.
Yeah. So that was, and then what I did is I went back and I did a few other courses, just because I thought, hang on, I'm gonna
Be proactive.
really show them that I want to do this.
That's what I did.
Never brought up. It was never brought up.
I know.
Never brought up. So now we're moving on to probably 2020. We had the new house. We moved, as I said, closer to Wollongong. So it was halfway. So my kids started getting a little bit of the shits about travelling so far. By this stage, my oldest was starting to turn. This is when he was like, it's too far, or I don't want to do this, or, so-and-so. And then we had a couple of instances at home where he ran off. Call my ex, come and pick him up. One time we went looking for ages to try and find him.
It wasn't ages, it was like 10 minutes.
We had all the kids out, and again, used all against me.
Because at this point, I guess there was, it was noticed that there was a lot of fun at our house, but we also had certain rules. So to kind of make things even, I think, his ex thought that if she lets them do these things that we don't let them do, or they get certain privileges with their mum, when they would come to our house, they wouldn't accept some of those rules that we had in place because we had the other kids. So that would cause sometimes some of the problems, and then also the jealousy. Unfortunately, the kids were quite different in terms of, I don't know how to say it, their health physically, because my kids are very athletic, sporty, they're very involved. They sleepovers, social, blah, 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 whereas his kids were not really
into any of the sports. They were quite isolated with their grandparents and their mum, and that was their whole world.
Yep.
And so naturally, for a kid with autism, this caused, some upset to change, rules and all that, which was fine. Kids do run off, like they get angry. It's not like unheard of, And but again, like it was just all used strategically over time, just to kind of
Just a tactical chess game,
Yes,
really.
just
long.
to spread out
the times of the visits, and it was just all used. Yeah.
We it was by around about this time, and I don't think I understood it probably until a little bit later, but it was this time when we found that they were spending less time with us, not because the parenting plan said it, because they didn't want to. So I'd go to school pickup, and my son would just, in some cases, would stay down in the courtyard and wait. And to faction this off, I used to say to my ex, I said, "Can you not turn up to pick up time? Because that means he's going to come over to you. If his only choice is me, then he'll stay with me, right?" And she's like, "No, I need to make sure that he's safe." Well, his father's here. He's at a school. Of course he's going to be safe. So it was all of that process of that, and what we call parental alienation started years beforehand.
Before we even realised what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't even know what the whole term.
I'll give a definition here for the listeners at home. I'll say it in a few episodes. Let me know if you agree to this. I can't pronounce this word. You're a teacher, so I might need your help. Parent alienation is a theorized process through which a child becomes estranged from one parent as a result of the psychological manipulation of another parent. The child's estrangement may manifest itself as a fear, disrespect, or hostility toward the distant parent, disproportionate to any acts or conduct attributable to the alienated parent. Parental alienation can occur in any family unit, but is claimed to occur most often within the context of family separation, particularly when legal proceedings are involved, although the participation or professionals such as lawyers, judges, and psychologists may also contribute to conflict.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and look, going back to the family report, it came back and said that these kids need more time. And each time that I thought, and I felt like this is when I was listening to yours, where you're saying, you'd have this evidence, right? This is yes.
This is it.
And then I have this.
Yeah.
This has to prove to her that she hasn't that she has to do this,
Not doing the
right?
thing, yeah.
And it came to a point where I was just like, and I said to my lawyer, I said, it won't matter what the court puts down on this piece of paper. The only way I get those kids out of that house, right? Because this is, a stage where I'm not going to, like, when it was already, they were already, like, at least with my son, this is what we're talking about my son. I have to call the federal police to come and pick him up. Think of the trauma that's going to have on him. So my lawyer, and even like Yaz would say, where we just think, no, hang on, we've got to start thinking about this. So it was roughly around about 2021 where we actually found out. We got a dog, which all the kids were wishing to have, right? And,
What type of dog?
Little cross Labradoodle.
Yeah.
So,
During COVID.
oh man, COVID
yeah.
just killed it, because COVID she played on that. Actually, I got a note here. I got to
they
say
got
that.
COVID again.
They got COVID. Can't come around.
I haven't thought about doing family court during COVID time. Yeah. So how did that play a part?
Well, but see,
Was court shut down as well?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it played on her anyway. You know what I mean? Like, we were already doing closed off.
You have to stay at home. You can't drive that far. Stuff like that. Yeah.
So like I said, I did one of the mediation sessions, which was a mediation with the ICL and the court registrar, and I did it in the office at the work in Sydney, right? And that took 2.5 hours. Man, the looks I was getting from my boss. Just, what are you doing? Come on, man. Well, we've got work to do, right? And I'd already made sure my work was done. Like, I was running the shop downstairs.
I'll pause you there real quick
Yeah.
because I want listeners at home that aren't going through it to realise that people just think, oh, I'm just going through court, but this is the domino effect it has in your working relationships. I was constantly taking time off. You got to attend this appointment. You got to make a phone call, ICL. And people just think, oh, okay, but you don't realise it's taking a toll. Your boss is getting pissed off. It has this just branches out,
Yeah, can I just add on to that as well, that because of the court case, we moved closer, and because the kids complained about, it's too far to drive, so we moved, and I moved my kids again. So this is our second move now at this point. So we moved out into one house, but then because of the court case, because they're like, oh, if you live closer, then technically she can't use that against you. If they're, not driving as much. So then we uprooted my kids and moved everybody out into a more like 30, 40 minutes out area that wasn't convenient or close for me or my kids. But we did because we thought that would be the best thing for this outcome to improve, or something to come out of it. And it did, but it was like years too late.
It was too late.
Yeah. But it's good to get Yasenka's opinion on this because obviously there'll be fathers watching this that have a current partner that's dealing with the old partner, and they're probably going to relate to you going, that's what we did, or, that's exactly what we're going through. And,
It's actually, that's a really good point because I said so introducing the new partner, right? That was something we wanted to focus on. Like there was put clauses in the parenting plan. Do not allow the kids to meet this parent 6, 10, 12 months later, right? And I'm like, yeah, I think if you pretty much know someone, like I had been with other women that I'm like, I know I don't love this person. And I'm probably in 3-6 months, I'm not going to love them. So I'm not going to show them to my, there was some women that were involved in our friend group that I had a part-time relationship with who I then introduced them through the group friends.
As a friend, yeah.
But that was it.
yeah, I understand.
It comes back to that, like, it affects everyone. It affects everyone. And looking at that, all these clauses, you look into these parenting plans, and if you break any one of those, or if the other partner hears it, they'll just pull everything. There was numerous times where I get emails saying, you've done this, so no time with the kids this week.
Yeah.
She uses that for me to break the thing, but she's breaking it as well. So, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and look, the stress and the on her kids as well was pretty full on. And we have evidence of that now, where, it has affected them. But then COVID affected them as well. But
at the time it did a lot because his kids wouldn't come, and then my kids were like, why are they not here?
Yeah, they like playing with them.
We told them for months and
Years we couldn't really explain to them because they were too young.
The same as my kids. They'll ask you questions at 7 or 8 or 9 and say, why can't we, like, why are you and mum going through this? Or why does this? Or
Do you feel that led you down a road of living two lives? And by that I mean you can only tell the kids so much stuff, so you kind of just you're bottling up. Like you're not lying to them with intent. You're just trying to withhold certain stuff because it's only going to be confusing. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I think my response was always, look, I love you, and there is things that I can't tell you now because I feel like that you can't understand it now, and I will tell you in the future if you want to know in the future. What I found out was my ex was telling them things that wasn't true.
Yeah.
Right? Or telling them things about the whole thing, right? So it was just like, and then they would come to me and say things, and so now, like as I said, I'm just having conversations with my daughter now. I always say to them, look, if you want to know anything, she's 12 now, and I'll say, if you want to know things, just ask.
Yeah.
She's probably still young, but like, what's the use? So again, look, she was my son around this time. which was around the end of 2021. My son wasn't coming. He just flat out wasn't coming. I'd ask him on WhatsApp. He had his own phone, so I'd send him messages. Hey, mate, do you want to come up this time? Or I'd see him at school pickup. No, nothing. I got a message off him, which, if you don't mind, can I'll read.
Yeah, go for
The
it.
message.
Yeah.
And I won't read all of it because it's pretty. It's not nice.
Yeah.
It's very graphic and horrific, actually.
You know, F you, I hate you. You know, I wish I had a long katana and I could slice, your body in half and mother effing kids and all this type of stuff. So, I mean, that's just a bit of it. And I don't want to say all of it, but I brought that up. I sent the message to his mum. I said, "What are you going to do about this? Like, this is bad. Your kid, our kid, is saying this to me. Oh, nothing wrong. I'll show you after.
Yeah.
And that was just the first. That was the first. Actually, that was sent in the morning. That was the first of many. I was taken back by it.
Yeah, it must be gut wrenching.
Really broken over.
Yeah.
Like several weeks actually. But I think what started that one was months prior to that was that my son and his son were playing together, and they would play together, gaming together many times, and they would fight a lot because, one of them has certain rules that he thinks should be done and the way that should be done, and the other one doesn't, obviously, then they will clash.
Yeah.
And then I think my son had said something to your son, like,
Oh, about his mum. Like they just, your mum
Something
this.
about
Kids,
your mum's
yeah.
this or your
Yeah,
mum's
yeah.
that.
And it's a sore point because obviously
his son
there's a.
lost it.
and he was just totally, and then we got emails and emails about it, and then his son just clung on to that like he was being bullied.
Yeah, so
That was used a lot to say, no, he can't come there anymore. Like, it's not.
Yeah, okay.
so then we had so moving pretty much on to the end of the kids with me was my daughter was still coming. Not great. Like she enjoyed the fact that my son her brother wasn't there because they sort of, they were in the same room. Again, they also fought. They didn't like the fact that all the other kids got separate rooms and they had to sleep together.
Yep.
So it was, she was still coming along, and then she would get the shits that, oh, I'm here by myself, and because then she ended up coming in the week that Yasenka's kids weren't there.
Yeah, because she was then also saying the same thing that his son was saying about how she was also not getting along with my daughter, and she was getting bullied, and it just
Yeah.
Copying each other's
Yeah.
behaviours
Yeah.
as
to have enough reasons not to come. And
We found out in end of 20. Well, it wasn't end of 21, but in 21 that we're going to have a kid, and that was about the same time that we actually sent out the dog back. We found out
we
that
got pregnant a week after we sent the dog back.
we found out that the dog was more Labrador than poodle, and
I
her
was
youngest
allergic.
and was
Oh,
allergic.
no.
So we sent him back, but then
So
we found
cried
out
for like 3 weeks.
we found out that we had the and
What,
yeah,
allergic to dogs in general, or just the Labrador?
we were both allergic. Like, I would sneeze, I would get headaches. Like, it was just the hair, because it was like have little.
Hairs, yeah.
I loved him. I loved him. He was,
no.
Harry, he was awesome. Little baby chocolate Labrador.
green eyes.
He
Beautiful.
was great, but he was what they call a clean skin. So he had Labrador face,
Didn't look like a Labrador
and the body was probably more poodle, but his hair type. But anyway, we ended up with a
Oh, beautiful.
yeah. So look, we end up.
We did the best thing.
Daughter
for him.
was
We
born-
sent him back to.
Daughter was born 2022.
Yep.
January 2022, and by that stage, my other daughter, so my oldest daughter, she was coming occasionally, met her a couple of times, played with her, and then it just stopped. That was it. We had, by that stage, we arranged, or the courts arranged a mediation to finally get this done. We met up at my lawyers. It was done. She was at her lawyers. We were at our lawyers. There was an ICL was involved. The register was involved. We sat down. It was just video conference, phone conference, and it wasn't long. I just said, look, my son hasn't turned up in ages. My daughter, she's now not turning up. What do you want me to do? I said to the ICL and I said to the register, I said, can you force this to change? Can you? I said to them, if we go to court, will it change? And they said, we can't answer that. And I said, well, let me answer it for you. It's not going to change.
Mm.
She has won.
Mm.
You turn the kids
Mm.
where they don't want to come. Now, I played a part to that. Of course I did. I was ignorant. I thought the court system would win. I thought the court system had strength.
So did I.
Coming to now, I spoke to my lawyer the other day and I mentioned this podcast and she says, oh, it works more often than not. And I said, maybe it does. But it's probably the important, and she would tell me this, like it cracks me up now. She would constantly tell me that she just did one the other day, final hearing. This father abused his kids and has 50-50.
What?
Yeah.
You know what?
Drug addicts apparently get time too. They get like 2 nights or something. Like,
What I don't get is, and I've got a good mate of mine, he's an army mate, so he's telling me black and white. You know?
Yeah.
He said, bro, you know how hard it is to get 50-50 for like a father? And I remember when I went in court, they asked me, what do you want? I remember the family report writer said, what do you want? I said, I want 50-50. She looked at me like I was crazy. Like, how dare you? Like, and it's kind of like, what?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just want to be in my daughter's life. And they look at you like 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard yours and they mentioned, they do say like at certain ages they are closer and they should be spending more time with the mother. My thing against that is that
I've lost by default, really, because
100%.
just by being the father, I'm like, well, I haven't done anything wrong, but too bad she's under 2. So
well, my ex,
Kind of also pushed for 50-50.
however,
He
he moved his parents in with him so that I would be okay with 50-50 because he works shift work and I was like, you just can't
How's it gonna work, yeah.
physically, how are you going to be there?
50-50. So, but anyway, so he made it work. So we've only ever had 50-50 because I agree. I think the father's role in a child's life is as important as the mother. Yes, biologically and naturally a mother will have certain connection with that child. In most cases, not that all mothers are great because some mothers are horrible and the father's actually the main parent. But generally speaking, I can see why the court system kind of leans towards that. However, if the kids are, I guess, okay with both parents, then just give them 50-50.
Yeah.
Start with that.
I
And
think,
apparently they do start with that. But then do they really?
yeah, I've done research. Germany apparently is automatically 50-50.
50-50, that's right.
Yeah, see, you know that.
Yes.
Germany is automatic 50, unless the other parent says, no, it's all right. Yeah,
Yes.
but it's automatic 50-50.
Yeah.
So they said, well, how are you going to do 50-50? I said, I'll go back to emergency response in the mines, week on, week off. Perfect. I'll cut.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's always, that won't. What do you mean it won't work?
But
I work
why
6
not
months
give
of the
you
year.
a chance
Yeah,
to show
yeah,
that it
that's
can
right.
work?
And if it doesn't work, well then you just can get together and work it out.
I think I think my theory is the family court works in the mother's favour when a mother just says no to everything. Like if you have a mother that says no, then the court goes, well, she's saying no, so you're gonna have to. Well, she's saying you might have a mother goes, argues a little bit. Okay, I'm happy to do. Okay, great, perfect. You've come. But when you have a narcissistic, controlling person that just says no to everything, that's when the family court's going to work in her favour because you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to drag out. Yeah. Do the courses, do this, come back, and it just.
They're thinking, oh, she's saying no for a reason, so obviously
there
must be something wrong with you. That not at any stage do they think, okay, maybe there's something wrong with her.
I think now they do more because now this is spoken about a lot more. But the system is behind. It's like 5 to 10 years behind reality.
Yeah,
always
it is.
in anything that happens legally. Like it's just.
I've had a lawyer on, and he said some family court lawyer, and I said I went on to trial. You know, they're backlogged, they're double booked, and they say they do that. I went to trial, so the trial was for 3 days. I'm rocking up, that court's booked it for me. I rock up, they say they're still dealing with another case. How? Today's books, they're so backlogged. They're hoping that they've dealt with that case or that case is pulled out because they're trying to catch up. And I told them the date, a month, the year that I was going to the court. And he goes, yeah, that's when they were double booked. Now they're triple booked.
Yeah.
That's, you know?
And it's a case of like, and that's what they offered us. They said, they came forward and they said, oh, look, you know, court date's probably going to be 2 years, 3 years, whatever. But you can we'll put you all in a room or in a video conference, whatever, to do mediation. And we're like, well, you know, mediation hasn't worked before, but this time we've got the ICL and we've got the register and we've got the lawyers involved in it. Oh, yeah, come on, this is going to work. And it doesn't. Because they got no... Man, like we had a mediator during this. This was a court-appointed mediator that was on the court talking to us and the ICL. And the ICL and the register were just there as, you know, like information. You know, they're going to give their advice, right? So the ICL's been involved for the last couple of years. The register, well, she's just the register, right? But she has a lot of strength, right? And the mediator, right? I thought they've all got strong. They're all got strength and they got some pull. No, as soon as they go to her and she says no, and they question, right? They do. They say, oh, but you know, oh, he's done all this. Hang on, I love saying that he's done all this, right? But nothing. And that was what. And again, we come to this, right? We come to this time where I'm just like, I was defeated, man. I know when I listened to you and you said that, right? My lawyer said the same thing, that, you know, you've got it tattooed on your hand. What
the judge said,
right? Yeah. My lawyer said the same thing. He says, those kids are going to miss out now, right? And you're sacrificing this for your kids because you just can't do it. And through this time, man, I'm spending money on psychs. I've been going and seeing a psych. I remember my psych at the time. It's so hard to find a good psych. It'll be worse now. The psych said, have you got access to rope? Mate, I'm a tradesman. You know, and I come close, man. I come so close. There was several times, and this is even when my youngest daughter was born. Several times where it was hard. Like, I gained a whole lot of weight. Man, I went from at my best, I was about 150 kgs, and I got down to 90 kilos. Right, that's because I thought there was hope, and then I got back up to 130 kilos because all I was doing was drinking and eating, man. And it wasn't until a couple of close mates said to me, but also, it said to me, she says, you know, you've got this wonderful little daughter who's here and in your life. And I realised, I said, right, the other two don't want to be in my life. And it rips at your heart. Like, you think, I know where they are. I drive past them almost daily at their schools, at where they live. And I always feel like, well, I'll just go and say hi. But what if? What if they don't want to see me? That'll rip me up. I'd rather, so I spent probably it's almost 3 years now. So they almost last 3 years. I said to myself, it's like, I don't want that time where I'm like, I can't let it keep ripping me apart, right? I'm doing all this. I'm drinking. I'm eating shit. Like, work's taking a toll. All this stuff's happening, right? I'm not going to be around. And at this stage, I'm driving from Wollongong to Gregory Hills, where we live now. And I'd drive along Picton Road on Hume Highway, and I'd be like, "No, man, just 130 into a pole, 130 into a tree."
That's crazy that you said Picton, because Picton's a suburb, yeah? Yeah. See that gentleman's bottom right?
Oh yeah.
In the square. Yeah, he shot himself in the head in Picton in a cemetery. Yeah, I'm not from Sydney, but I know Picton. Yeah, he shot another male at a survey, and then he walked off and shot himself in the head. But yeah, it's funny you're talking about not funny. You're talking about Picton, and as soon as I heard Picton, I was like, "Fuck!" And there, that's
It's a
where.
remote area that's
It's
detached.
and it's funny because I got involved with men's mental health during all of those times, thinking, well, when I was feeling hopeful that I could get something out of this,
Yeah. So it's like an up and down.
I was helping these other guys, and then when my journey was taking that real slide down, I bowed out of helping these guys because I found that a lot of those guys just wanted to latch onto something, right? And they were draining me as much as I was draining myself.
You got to fill your own cup up.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing that.
No.
And that's what it wasn't probably until end of 2023 probably, or the start of 2024 that I started realizing that I've got to stop drinking. I've got to stop eating shit. Put weight on. I was doing stupid shit, and it doesn't get you anywhere.
So in terms of like his downward spiral was like it was just this vicious cycle that we were in. So my whole pregnancy and this baby coming into this world and the first year of her life, all of that was constantly overtaken by this court case and by all the issues with his kids. The life with my kids, because my kids were walking on eggshells a lot because of his kids. Oh no, don't say that, you can't do that, because then they'll get upset and they don't want to come again. Don't say something to Warwick about the kids, don't ask because it's going to upset him. So we had like years of that really, and then we also had this beautiful baby that we were really fortunate to have in our 40s. Completely, like that whole process was tarnished by this court case and the delay and the dragging out and the alienation and all of that, and because he was aware of all of that, it was just like this spiral where I'm the cause of this, and then you feel even worse and
You feel
better,
burdened.
and then something else happened and then I'm cause of that too, and like there's so much guilt and self-blame that went into it. But really, it wasn't his fault. Like, he couldn't have seen this coming, because if it's someone's intention to, work the system and they prepare for that years before you even see it coming, you don't really have a chance. And this is why we were like, it's really good for people to hear this.
Absolutely.
Because people don't see it. Like, now that it's kind of more spoken about, I guess maybe people do. I hope they do. But we didn't. And we didn't understand the impact. I certainly didn't, that it was going to have on our life and for how many years it went on, because we were like, oh, maybe a year or two, like, we'll fight it, we'll get all the evidence, this guy.
Yeah, evidence. How was because I remember when the doctors and the nurses said something like, when you're pregnant, try and be in a stress-free environment. It's good for. So when I was with my ex, I was like, right, I'll do all the running around thing. How was that for you guys? Like the stress of all this ongoing while you were pregnant.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it was terrible. I got pneumonia that when the baby was 6 months old. I was in hospital with pneumonia. I was sick for like 3 or 4 weeks.
She broke her leg when she was.
I broke
pregnant.
my ankle when I was 6 months pregnant.
How'd you do that? Walking downstairs?
No, just like a trip on this tall.
Oh, yeah.
The curb was this tall. Just like lost my balance, cracked it. And amidst all that, it's just all this chaos going on. So him, like, I don't want to say poor guy, but like he just had to deal with the guilt of not being able to provide this peace and quiet for the pregnancy, and doing what he can for the, the nausea. Like, I was just bedridden with nausea for months. Like, and then when his daughter would come, like the difficulties there, like, because, also like I didn't want to get into confrontations with her again because I wanted her to keep coming and stuff. But it was really difficult because he would try and be the middleman and so many issues.
It's a difficult dynamic, obviously, when you have a blended family. Like, you find out actually how many blended families are around, right? There are actually so many. Like, I talk to customers all the time, and I always, I've got kids, and they go, oh, how many you got? Oh, I've got 7. They go, what? Blended family, and I go, yes. Yeah. And then they'll mention someone that they know of, right? So yeah, I mean, look, probably the whole pregnancy and the issues she was going through was helpful because it took my mind off a lot of the problems.
I think he hung on as well because of the pregnancy and the baby too.
Yeah.
I feel like if I wasn't around or the baby, like
Oh.
it would have been a different outcome, unfortunately.
100%. I wouldn't be here.
Mm.
I can say that with 100% certainty. If I was single at the time throughout all this process, I would have ended my own life, 100%. And I've said that to my mum and dad, and they're like, oh, kidding. But that my dad knows that because my dad, he had one of his closest mates went to a shooting range in Sydney and shot himself. So it's
I know, man. Trust me. I've worked 4 countries. Nothing in life's broken me about that family court system, and it broke me.
it's hats off to I know a few people now in terms of that have gone through this process in the military, and they've just been dropped by the government. Like, I didn't give a shit, right? But actually to talk about it on a
No, you're
don't
great.
you do it? I'm
You're
gonna.
great. You're great.
Yeah, he's doing good. I can tell you something.
That's what we do when
Mate,
we're
I was
on
talking, I'm
movies.
like, I'll crack jokes or change for like.
We've
Change-
cried a lot of
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I look, I'm a cry man. Like there'll be a Disney movie and I'll cry man.
He cried.
Yeah.
So moving forward, obviously, right now I'm talking a lot. Well, not I am talking to my daughter. I sent messages to my son. He won't talk. And I have some arguments with her about, hey, I love you and I want to spend time with you and I want to see you and all this type of stuff. But I can now understand why she doesn't want to, because she is a complete new person. And now it's funny, man. Like, I lost it again, like last night with this TikTok, right? She's got things on there about, am I chasing a ghost? And
You
there's a
got the
photo,
ghost thing on
and there's a
online,
photo
yeah.
of me on there, right? And that hit hard, man. Like, and it's, but sorry, bringing it back to
Take your time.
bringing it back to Christmas.
Oh, we hate Christmas now.
Oh man, Christmases, birthdays.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go and drop off. Like I can't even drop off. I'll drop the present off in the letterbox or whatever, because I'm afraid that if I see them, they'll tell you off or
Yeah, break you.
Yeah. So Christmas, and this is the impact on everyone else, right? So my mum and dad, right? They haven't seen their grandkids in years, man.
Yeah.
And so my mum messages my ex all the time, she invites them over for Christmas and stuff like that. So apparently my daughter was gonna come around on Christmas, but because I had an argument with her, she didn't come around. And I said to Mum, I said that I don't know how that would have worked. Like, it would have been fucking amazing, but you haven't seen her in 3 years. I haven't seen her in 3 years. How's that going to go? So we had a couple of instances where maybe a year and a bit ago where they had mentioned they might want to come around and stay. And I'm like, I was in a really dark space where I was just like, but hang on, we should be having like an hour or something here or there. We haven't seen each other in ages. Let's try and
talk.
let's try and get to know each other a bit first, right? Because my son now is he's 15, 16?
He'll be 15.
Oh, 15,
soon.
sorry, yeah.
he's
So
going on
15, so 15, right? Now I haven't seen him in 3 years. For a boy, there's
Been a lot of progress.
yeah, especially he's on the
Growing.
spectrum and everything like that. So I said, look, we need to have those processes. You can't just come straight back in. And I'd love to, I said to I'd love you to just come up and just get back to the way it was. But unfortunately, it's not going to be like that. So there's those those other things to navigate around that. So fast forward to say 15 years and they want to get back in it. You're not going to just, hey, come over and stay the night and we'll drink beers and whatever. I mean, maybe that will happen, but it'll probably be, hey, let's go and have a coffee somewhere or something like that, you know, because we don't know who each other is. And that was made more evident than anything last night when I saw those TikToks, and I was just like, hang on, I don't know who she is. So yeah, man, it's heavy.
Yeah, trying to put myself. I try to put myself in the guest shoes. Yeah, I don't know what it'd be like if I saw my daughter post stuff, and I'm sure one day that might come. You know what I mean? So
It'll come sooner than you think.
Yeah.
It just flies with kids' times.
Yeah.
Years just roll by.
And you know, the younger they are now, kids are getting phones and tablets.
Yeah, 7 or 8 year olds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it to bring back with this my other son, and this is where when you have a negative experience about something, so you know, with the family law court and how I feel like it's just worthless. The only way I'm going to get to see my other son is go to family law court, or wait. He's at school. School's been told, I look, I don't want to get into it, but the school's been told that not to post any photos of him, not to answer any of my emails or anything like that. So it's just, look, it's partly my fault. I'll always say that it's partly my fault, because I always believe relationship ends. It's not just one party. It's always it's always got to do with both parties, whether it's 95% one person and 5%. I mean, if someone cheats, it's almost because you're not getting it somewhere else, or you know from your partner or something like that. So it's it's always got to do with both parties. There's a reason why something is not working. It's both parties to some degree, you know.
Yeah.
So I blame myself for part of it, you know, and I don't see it changing. And hopefully and thankfully, I have a connection with my daughter. She is talking to me. She asked me to come on and play Fortnite with her occasionally, you know, and that's cool, man. I think I was rushing it for a little bit, and that's why we got into fights. Now I'm just going to let it play out.
Just cruise.
If she wants to, you know, she just said to me last night, she says, her mum's going on holidays and her grandparents are looking after her. And I said, well, look, hey, if you want to go for the movies, we'll go somewhere for something during school holidays. Give me a call. Send me a text. Make sure it's okay with your grandparents, and we'll go and do something. I'll take time out from work. I don't care, whatever.
How's the relationship with your parents?
You ever run a business with your parents?
No.
Don't.
Look, it's interesting.
Do they hold any
Probably.
resentment?
I know where you're going to go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Look, it's probably worse now. They don't have any other. They do have. Like my mum doesn't have any other grandkids. My dad does, but he has no. Like they're now
Older.
30 and 20 something and 20 something, right? So they don't have anything to do with him. So yeah. I mean, obviously to some degree they probably do, yeah. But when you work with someone and you have family life with someone, it's very hard to distinguish between the two of them. My dad's 81 now, and my mum's just about to turn 80. So they're coming to that point where they're starting to realise, you know, their legacy. Spend time, man. Like my dad had triple heart bypass last year.
Oh, wow.
So he not last year or the year before. He understands that. Like his time now is no harder man in the world, man. No harder man in the world than my dad. Like I remember looking at when I was young, his forearms were like
Popeye.
Yeah, man. He was a Land Cruiser man.
Yep.
Yeah. And we used to like, I look back on it, I miss that times, man. But yeah, he's just, you know, I look at him now and he's just a shell of what he used to be. A shell compared to like, I mean, all the sicknesses, the heart, you know, it's crazy.
They still look after our daughter, so they will still.
So
they have her one day a week when we're working and stuff, so they will
that's
leave
good.
her there and they're doing.
Yeah, well, 80-year-olds with a 3-year-old.
Can you imagine that?
It's they can only handle one day a week because it's
But they're happy
pretty-
and she's
she
happy.
loves it.
It's
They
good.
love it,
She loves them.
So throughout that process, DV never got brought up, like as in like DVOs. Like,
we were always scared. Like, and I guess to a sense, to answer that the best way is that I probably could have had that happen had I put a lot more effort in to try and see the kids.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, you're right in saying that. I say it because one, you're like the first father I've had on that DV hasn't been brought up, because usually that's the blueprint, right?
Oh, don't get me started.
yeah, you know.
yeah, well, I guess it started to rear its head around that time when I got reported to fax, right? So and then my lawyer said, yeah, it's going to come. Next email, don't you worry, that's what's going to happen. I don't know where you've had, like, if it's all been Queensland or New South Wales where the people you've interviewed.
Or mix.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if it did happen and New South Wales was a bit like, or she just got some people to pull your head in type thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had her parents tell me a number of times, you leave us alone, you don't come anywhere near us, you know. But yeah, again, yes, no, just those couple of times where it was going to happen, I could tell, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I know a few fathers that have gone to try and see their kids. There's one gentleman who actually used to be a cop, and his ex was a psychiatrist in the corrections. So she knows how to write reports very
That
well.
would have gone well.
Yeah. Anyway, he just wanted to go watch them play netball one time.
Yeah.
Didn't go talk to him, just sat on the hill, looked down. She seen him, reported him, breached, got thrown in prison. Yeah, I know another gentleman recently, just wanted to see his kids at Christmas, put Christmas presents, breached at DVO, got put in prison. Yeah, most people in prison, and I've asked, my dad's 29-year correction officer. I said 26 on my episode. He's actually 29 years.
Yeah, okay.
I've asked my dad, who's corrections. I've asked ex-inmates, and I've asked current police and ex-police, are there innocent? Do you think there's innocent people in prison? They all said yes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being in a cell right now, staring at the ceiling, going, I'm in here,
For doing
and I'm innocent? Like
Yeah.
I would probably get out and do something silly. I think that's what would cause me to do
Yes.
something silly.
Yeah.
1 year,
100%.
2
It
years,
would
3
mess
years,
up
you know?
mentally so much more than it
Because-
would before.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
If you've
it's
done
just-
something wrong, you're like, yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah, you've done something wrong, I think.
F
But
done,
imagine, like,
right.
I've been set up here. I've been stitched up.
Even more so for wanting to spend time with your kids, man.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
If you've
And-
been like,
And that was because of someone that you once loved. You know what I mean? Like, it gets deeper and, you know,
yeah,
just...
man, like it's pretty full on.
This is what another thing that really got to me when Warwick and I met and this whole court case was about to start. I think I was a big factor in you pursuing that a bit more aggressively, because even though we had known each other for a few months only, you can just tell, like, I have had a lot of experience with aggressive people in my life, whether they have been, students I dealt with, partners as well. And you just know when someone has a short temper or has problems with aggression, whether they go out fully or not. That was never the case with him, ever. I have never, ever seen him just be aggressive, even yelling. He won't even, like, yell like you would expect or hear people really, like, yelling at kids or yelling with your partner when you're really having, like, some heated argument, which happens.
Can I just say I'm a lover, not a fighter?
He really is. And the sad thing is that his looks contradict what he's like in his personality.
know
And
about that.
unfortunately, has worked against him in this system. And it's so sad in this day and age that people still will judge you based on how many, tattoos, what your hair's like, the beard. And then that kind of got him into this situation. And the only reason why he hasn't got the DV aspect had to deal with, I think, in my opinion also, is because of his job, and he understands as a locksmith where he goes and deals with things. He understands how things can be used, because he would deal with DV cases through his work. And I think that has made you hold back as well.
Well, it's yes. Sorry to interrupt, because after the night me and my ex split after she assaulted me, I called a locksmith the next day.
That's right.
Yeah,
and he's that
the
guy.
locksmith. Yeah.
So he would have known.
Yeah, it's actually it's interesting because my dad, for a short period of time, there's a task force called SLED. I don't know, you probably don't have it up here in New South Wales, which involved a whole lot of the police commissioner and a few other people. Anyway, it was to control security licenses. Now, as a security guard, you can pretty much do a lot of things and you won't lose your license, right? If I am with someone that gets in a brawl in a nightclub, wherever, right, and I go to that jail to support that person, right, and let's say, for instance, I get done for being part of that. I don't know what the thing is.
Is it a frail?
A phrase?
Afraid?
Yeah, something like that.
But you didn't do anything. You're just there with that
yeah.
person, right? I lose my license, 10 years, right? We had a locksmith that got done. He just took the master license from his dad, right? So this is what happened, and nothing happened, but he had a joint in his pocket. Got done for that. 10 years, can't have a master license or have his security license, so he can't run the locksmith company, right? So locksmiths get pretty heavily, but change the system. I mean, we could keep going on about it. You know, judges, lawyers, let's get better at this. There is,
Just listen to people and look at the evidence.
Yeah, that's right, evidence. I know, right?
And stop taking 10, 15 years to change the system,
Yeah.
right? These people we pay lots of money to be in power, right? And it's not a political podcast, but let's make real change,
Yeah,
man.
that's right.
Like, where there's men dying from suicide, right?
46 a week.
I don't like using committee.
Is it the number one cause of death for men?
No.
What age
Oh,
group?
yeah.
It
Well,
is for one age
there's more
group. I
people
can't remember
die
which
from
one,
males
but-
die from suicide than the national road toll.
Wow.
Right? I heard that fact the other day. That blows, right? There was a case the other day, and I'll bring this up because this is evident of what it is. They said the first DV murder happened in New South Wales. No, it was in Australia in the new year, right? I went, oh, that's interesting. And it was a guy and a girl that got drunk on hand sanitizer, and he beat her to death, right? And then he rang up and said, "Sorry, look, I've rang the cops and I've killed my partner," right? And they said, "Oh, it's a DV murder." How's it a DV murder? That's murder,
Yeah, it's just murder.
It's alcohol induced.
right? Why are you bringing up domestic violence? So does that mean now, if there is a male, right? Because that sounds confused. Right? If there's a male that kills his partner, all of a sudden that's DV.
TV, right?
Right now, I hate to use stuff like this, but this is what's happening, right?
Everything's a form of DV. I've used this example before. My lawyer said if you put the aircon remote too high for guys to grab, it's a form of DV. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all this stuff, like for me personally, having come from like a really traumatic background in war and everything, like I've lived through violence and aggression and all that. So some of these things, and especially when we met and he started telling me all this stuff, like I was just beside myself. I couldn't, even as a teacher, like I know aggression and violence and abuse, and we are trained, very well trained in that. But things like this, I was just like, how can this be happening? And that was the first time ever in my life where I've come across, that bias in the system, the dysfunction, I guess, but also just the people, and I guess it's a lot of it is women just making up, exaggerating, using it to their advantage, using it to get back at people, and not putting their child first.
That's right. Spiteful, petty. Yeah.
I know.
Yep. I use this example all the time. People are sick of it. if my ex was in prison or mental ward right now, I'd always take my daughter to the visiting hours because it's not about me and her. It's about my daughter needs to see her mum, regardless of what's happened.
Yes.
You know, I'd always take my daughter to let's just say, and she's in prison, to the visiting hours because my daughter needs to see her mum. But yet here I was fighting to get 1 hour with my daughter. You know, just
That's crazy.
That's what gets me, right? So I understand things went sour with you and your partner, right? How hard is it for her to just send videos over to you, for you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Like that. Those are little things, right? So that was the exact same thing that happened with my ex. Like right at the start, she went on holidays with the kids, right? And I was like, oh, cool. She sent me photos. Cool, no worries. But then as soon as all this process started, and I almost feel like, did it get to the point where the lawyers said, no, you can't do this. You can't make it look like that you guys are amicable. Do you know what I mean? That's where I felt like it is. And I think that's where that lawyers play that part. The lawyers play that part to say, hang on. Like, if you want the best outcome, you can't make it sound like it. Oh, hang on. You say you can't be in the same room and you say this. So, look, it worked out terrible for me. I do know people that it worked out for, right? And it's like, you know, just to take the property settlement, right? They take in the father has a better chance of
Income potential.
Income potential, right? No, she earns more than I do, a lot more. So how is that like?
There's the income potential with me. Mind you, I never went through child support with my ex. We never did any of that. We send each other photos of the kids if we do go away. Now the kids send it themselves because they're older. But when we were younger, I would send it to him. I mean, but just, if you really truly put your child first, it's a really easy process. There's no complication.
So my ex has obviously caught wind of so we don't, once she left the country, we don't, I don't know. Yep. It doesn't say that we can't contact, but she just left, right? I don't have her on social media. She's obviously got fake accounts following me. My account's on public, obviously a good podcast, which I knew eventually. Her friends will probably see it or something. Anyway, obviously this Boxing Day of all days, she emailed me. I want your address. Hand over your address. I know you've moved. You've sold the house. And I replied, oh, yep. Merry Christmas. How's my daughter? Can I have some photos, please? And why do you want my address? I'm going to sue you if you bring out this podcast. And I'll only send you photos and videos if you start paying child support. Now, we made a financial binding agreement, right? Which child support have refused anyway. But again, you're only going to send me photos or videos of my daughter for money. And I said, I'm not going to live on your terms and conditions anymore. I'm not going to be controlled by you. Hit subscribe and follow to keep up to date. And you might want to sit down and embrace yourself because the truth's about to come out. And I haven't heard back from her since.
You could have 100 hours to talk about.
Yeah,
child
I know.
support.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say about the child support.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They don't. So they use fake names. They don't give their real name. Just so you know. Yeah. So if you're talking to Sarah, that's not their real name.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
Really? So,
yeah.
just I guess one final point on that. But I was talking to. So when I left work, I had no income, and my child support bill was getting up. So they didn't garnish my income. I paid rent, you know, out of my bank into her bank account. No, not into her bank, into the child support one. And the lady rang up and says, "How are you going to pay this? About $3,500." And I said, "I've got no money." She goes, "Oh, yeah, you have to have money." And like we weren't married, so it doesn't take into account her income, and never does.
No.
But so she kept saying you must have income, and I said, and then she goes, "Oh, you got any interest in your bank account?" And I said, "Oh, probably about $2.50 a year." She goes, "You got an income."
Yeah.
She goes, "So you need to pay the at that time it was about $230 or $240 a week." I said, "I'm no mathematician, but how does $2.50 a year cover $230 a week?" Anyway, to their credit, I said to the lady, I said, can I speak to your supervisor? So I get a phone call back about, I think it was the next day actually. Absolute lovely lady. She said, Warwick, don't worry about it. Your back pay, 3.5. We've cancelled it. She says, you're looking for work? And I said, yeah, I am actually. But I'm at uni. And she goes, okay, cool, no worries. All right, could you afford $20 a week? I said, I probably could rummage up $20 a week. She said, no worries. And that was left at that. And to get to that stage, there was lots of phone calls. There was lots of emails. There was lots of messages on there, you need to pay this, you're in arrears, we're going to...
Yeah, and the pressure, this is the first time I had experienced this because I was never going through child support. So I always worked, I earned, enough. But still, with my 3 kids and our expenses and him not working, I can just imagine, if we weren't together, sharing the expenses, or if you were single or, in a really bad headspace, that would just destroy you. This is why men commit suicide.
I'm going to say this on camera right now. Child support are the reason men are taking their lives.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, one of the sponsors that have just jumped on board, MCH Industries, he works in the mining industry. He has guys working, making 160 grand a year, and they can barely
Yes.
They can barely support themselves.
Right.
Because child support just go, yeah, 100% goes to that.
Yep.
Child support, you're a joke. They do not. I'm pro child support, but the way you're executing it is not correct. So I pay child support all the way up until my daughter left. Of course, I'll pay for my child, even though I know it's not going to her. She's using it for Botox, whatever she's doing. But we made a deal. Now she's not adhering to. Well, technically she signed and agreed. They've refused it, but. Now they're trying. Now I'm going to hear the argument on the phone. I just don't pick up anymore. Now they're trying to say that I have to pay $600 a week, and my daughter's not even here. And now there's just this bill ticking up, and I just refuse to pay it. So, what's your understanding of child support? Do you know that it's any taxable income that you have to declare, right? So I receive a pension, right, from my military service. Yeah. It's tax free. It's to support me and my knees, my elbows.
Because
they still take it. I said it's not a taxable income. It's tax free pension. No, we'll take it. So I say to them, so when they email your employer saying, we want 30%, or whatever it is, I said, no worries. Why don't you email DVA then, or my super, email them? Oh, we can't. Why? I know why you can't, because it's not a taxable income. So why are you taking it from me? If you can email my employer to take whatever it is, 30%, why can't you email my pension? Because you can't, you're not entitled to it. You guys are just making up your own rules. Take this, take that. And you guys don't communicate. Family court don't give a fuck what child support, and child support they don't communicate. They got their own laws, their own legislation. And
the other problem with this is because of this perception with men, I think a lot of guys don't actually tell them, hey, I am struggling mentally. You can't do this to me. Because they won't say it. And I understand their point, there is some horrible fathers out there who are just not paying.
Plenty of shit fathers.
And that's the reason why they're like that. However, there is men who genuinely won't say, hey, I'm struggling, I'm depressed, this is making me take my own life. And they won't. And they just don't do anything about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I agree, but also I reckon if some did, they wouldn't care. My case manager is an absolute bitch. We get in a heated argument. And we have a dick swing contest. She goes, I was 1 month overdue because they refused to accept the financial bonding agreement. I was 1 month overdue, 1 month. So at that point it was $1,600. So for $400 a week. Yeah. Oh well, Mr. Percy, you can appeal it, but that's going to take a couple of months. But in the meantime, you're 1 month overdue. That's great. I don't care in your eyes. So she goes, well, I'll get third parties involved. She froze my accounts.
Yeah, they can do that. That's crazy too.
Being 1 month overdue. I went to the bank. She goes, I can't believe. She goes, I've seen this. It's been years since I've seen one, but 1 month overdue. I said, yeah, do you know how many people, fucking hundreds of thousands of people in Australia are 1 month overdue? Because we had a dick swinging contest. It's just crazy. They don't care.
When I was working in Sydney, we were me and my other ex, the one with my youngest son. I rang them. I said, you know what? I want to pay child support for him. And I remember this conversation because I remember it now because of what you said when you first rang up. I remember you saying on your thing.
They're real nice.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Mr.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. And then the reason why I couldn't, right? So this is the thing. I wasn't putting on the birth certificate. I was never given a chance to put my name on the birth certificate. So now I need a court to put my name on the birth certificate. One of the reasons why the school won't give me because I'm not, So, and we went through the conversation. They said, oh, do you know what her income is? No, she doesn't work. All this type of stuff. And then they said, I said, have you got the birth certificate? And I said, no, I'm not on the birth certificate. Oh, sorry. You can't pay child support. I said, well, but I want to pay her money, but I want it documented. I don't want it documented in me transferring it to her account, even though that is documented. I want you guys to see that this is on because probably at some stage she will do that, right? And another thing is like they'll back pay it, right? They do 6 months or 12 months or whatever the thing is. I think it's state to state different.
3 maybe in Queensland. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. So, but but if it's the other way around, they don't. But, so she was pretty good, but the only way I could do that is again going back down
and this
the rabbit
was
hole.
also another no person. So it was fine when Warwick was going to see the baby on her terms. That was all good. The second he started asking, I don't really want to have anything to do with you. I do want to take this child and spend time with him and take him with my other kids and my family, my partner. No, sorry, not doing that.
Control.
You're not a safe person.
Yeah.
No reason to think
anything
other than anyways.
Anyway.
But yeah, you can just be difficult and it gets you.
That's right. That's right.
It's easier for her to. It's easier for them to be difficult because the system, like you said in previous, the system's designed to make it. If you want to be difficult for the other partner, female to male, it's designed to make it be easier. The lawyers love it.
Yeah, I know.
And even more so if they're not paying, right? So if it's legal aid, right? And like as I said, my ex-wife, she paid a lot of her lawyers through that, but then went to legal aid in the end. She doesn't have to pay nothing. I mean, in the end, thankfully through my lawyer, she's ended up paying a lot more than I have. It's the way the system is, man. I hope this is going to change something.
Well, I've spoke to Pauline Hanson's media advisor last week, and good chance might be getting her on. She seems to be the only politician that's been quite vocal.
Love her.
Yeah, she's been for years, sticking up for some love her or hate her, but I think
I don't agree with everything she says, but she has, and as well as a couple of other female politicians. Actually, I will say this, and some male.
Who else have you got there on your politician list?
I'll message her through because there was I know there was a male politician that I heard of that he had been through the family law court system as well. I'll find that out because one of my mates he told me about it actually. So I'll send you those details this week.
Yeah.
Pauline is just like I think one of the reasons why people like her is she's just being honest.
Perhaps we personally, I don't know. I think we both don't necessarily agree about the big things that she stands for. However, she has been one of the first people that I remember hearing
sticking up for fathers. Yeah.
Yes, saying that her son, I think there was some issues with family law court.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think it was, and that's the first time it was her
Mm.
son, and that's the first time I remember, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
This is
and
good.
everything she says right. She says the timelines like minimum. She said minimum 23 months, like minimum at best. Like trying to get something sort of like the courts aren't letting fathers see their child, like the fabricated allegations, like
no one wants to be brought to have it brought forward. It's I can't remember it, and I probably shouldn't bring it up, but there was something where one of the male support or dad support groups, and I think it might have been Dad's Australia.
Oh yeah. I know.
I think they went down to it was one of those, and I remember this a few years ago now. They were down at Canberra, and they were planning on meeting one of the ministers regarding Dad's rights, and it just so happened that it actually got wind of, and one of the women's rights group stopped it all from happening. It was about 3 years ago, I think it happened. And I think that's really tragic. I mean, the only way we have an honest conversation about this is everyone's on the same page. And we all have more stories like this coming out. Obviously, the system's been very biased previously. I think the best way to say it was when my father did that, right? It was an expectation that the mother took the kids, right? That even before that, when my grandparents, the mother had the kids because she was never working.
Yeah.
And the father would go and do
Provide.
work and stuff like that. And he would provide and see his kids whenever, whatever, like that type of stuff. So that was how it happened back in the day. But dude, we're not like that now. We want to see our kids. We want to be with our
That's
kids.
right, yeah.
And it's not on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
No, he's a very hands-on dad with our daughter. So like he always did everything, and that he was that way with his other kids too. So you can imagine how shattered you would be as a parent, like not having that connection with your child. You know.
And you know what? Being a provider, for me anyway, it got used against me in court because I was controlling. Like, she wanted to stay at home. I said, that's right, I'm going to run around, I'll provide. But when we got to court, oh, he wouldn't let me work. And, oh, you control. It's just like, mate, honestly, you know what I mean? I'm giving her the life she wants. I'm happy. I'm running around. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to run, pay the bill. I'm the provider. Oh, you're the controller. What? You know, oh, you're controlling the finances. Oh, yeah, he wouldn't let me work. I was just like, oh.
I'll talk to you out after this with some. I was talking to a head of police in Wollongong. He's retired now, and talking to him about some stuff.
Well, yeah, I've got a current cop coming on. I won't say what state, but he's in a DV task force. I'll just leave it at that. So
they got some stories to tell. I mean, and look, you know, and there's a side for everything, you know. But change needs to happen.
all right, is there anything we missed? Because I know what it's like when I did mine. I went home, I was like, fuck, I missed this, I missed that.
Like I said to you beforehand, I've sat down weeks and weeks and trying to
Go over it 100 times.
and like my coach said to me, he said to me on Thursday when I was talking to him, he said, just talk from your heart, mate. It doesn't matter timelines. You don't want to diarise it, you know, on the 18th of December.
Well,
And it's not about that. It's obviously, and I hope some of my emotion that I felt has come through. So maybe someone with power will see that. But no, I mean, look, yeah, again, I'll probably go home and
you'll stare at this and tell your message. Oh man,
I'll send you a text.
Yeah.
Can you AI this in? Can you?
I think our main thing, what we were talking about, was just to make all these issues known and maybe to prevent someone else from having to go down this road, and to also just give a voice to, I guess, fathers who are broken.
Trust me, the amount of messages I get,
Yes.
like I'll show you after this, for like people, thank you so much, like thank you for doing this, thank you, like they ask for advice, you know. So, and there's guys that have been through it, just like, thank you, it's about time, like. So I've always asked the same 4 questions, but I thought I'm gonna ask the same 4, but I've added, so for the next 10 episodes, I'm asking the same 4, but I've added one in. And the question I've added is actually from Ben Carrick, who was my second episode. Any advice for fathers, knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything during the process? It's both for you, because you know you can add in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I look. I'll take some of the advice that I got from here and from some other fathers. Right. I would have researched the whole process a lot more. 100%. I would have researched the whole process more. I would have gone into it thinking that I was already behind. I would learn the words. I would learn, and I would fight a lot more than I did. Possibly in the and again, probably pessimistic. Is that
Pessimistic.
Yeah, that's probably the part of me thinks, no, I probably wouldn't have changed it anyway. But I think if the number one thing, I guess, is just if someone's going to be in it, research, learn the words, learn the jargon, like so you know if when they're talking,
Terminology.
you know what they're saying. Do you know what I mean? You like there was words that I was saying, I'm going, and I'd say to my lawyer afterwards, what's that mean? And you're only believing what they say. So, and maybe learn that how it's written and why it's written that way and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would just add probably to build. Well, no, actually, the first thing I would add is to really not underestimate your own health and mental health in this process and how much that's actually going to affect you that you won't even know until you are
In it.
and through it and past it. Because when you're in it, actually, that's when you can least see it.
Yeah.
But then that's when the damage is done in a
Yeah.
way. And also just to be honest and open about your, struggles and feelings to the right people. Like find your support network, whether it be, some people just to vent to, some people that actually have, advice for you from a legal perspective, and then some people who have gone through something similar. So have kind of like several people in your life that can actually support you from either side that whenever you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
My dog was a big part in that.
I remember you talking about
Yeah. All right, the second one, how do we change the system? Yeah.
Well, it's almost actually, you know what? It's an easy thing. It's honestly the only way that it's going to change if someone high up experiences the same thing. It's someone said to me once, "You're not going to change until you experience it." Right? So there's been things with friends of mine that haven't understood certain things, and they haven't understood it until it's happened to them.
Correct.
Prime Minister, the courts, they're not going to understand. You could talk to them,
Yeah.
till you're blue in the face. They're just going to go, yeah. Until and it's like what you said with Paul and Hanson. She understands because she has been through it with. I'm pretty sure it was a son, but they won't understand until they've been through it. Like I've said a few times with my dad, like, why haven't you guys? And they said to me, because we keep asking you, do you want us to do more? And I say, nah, it's all good. My dad said to me once, he said, do you want me to go to Sydney and we'll get what are they, QT?
QT Hotel?
No, the like the barristers, the head.
Oh,
of the
KC. Like, so it used to be Queen's Counsellor, now it's the King's Counsellor because Queen's KC. Yeah.
So KC, and I said, my dad goes, look, well, because he knows a few people up that way, and he said, oh, doesn't matter the cost, we'll do it. And I said, Dad, I don't think it'll change.
You know what? That day when I broke, I walked in. I just walked. I knew. Didn't matter if I walked in with a barrister that day. It didn't matter if I walked in with a KC or no representation. That day, the judge would have said the same. I don't have time to read it today. You can go back to the super. He wouldn't have gone, oh shit, you're fucking KC so and so. All right, hold on, let me just read it. He don't get that. Judge doesn't care. The outcome would have been the same.
Yeah.
I'm probably a bit more optimistic. I think just coming from a different perspective, I guess, it's like any issue in society. Obviously, this is a huge issue that hasn't really been known for a long time. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong in that, but I feel like this really needs to be spoken about more. And I think once the people start
telling their stories,
once it's out there in the open, people are living it, but also talking about it, because a lot of men didn't talk about this as well. And there isn't really, like, now with social media, we do have that, I suppose, power to make something current in society. And the more current, the more known it becomes, laws have to follow that eventually. And they will. Like, I believe that it will change slowly, but it's just going to take
time.
a lot more, because men generally don't speak up often enough about all of this. There's so many men who are just silently putting up with it because they're scared for whatever reason that something else is going to be used against them.
Yeah, I remember hearing fathers talk about court, but before I had a child, and I'd hear it, but I wouldn't register. Like, oh, okay, like
Yes.
yeah. And then when I did have my daughter, I used to hear it, but again, still didn't. Oh, okay, like he's talking about not seeing the children. Again, didn't really register because I wasn't in the driving seat. And then once you're in those four walls, like, is this actually happening? What? I can't see my. And then I literally remember all those single people that told me their story, exactly where they were standing, who they were, where I worked for them. I was like, man, that poor guy, like, Yeah, so, all right. This is
Bring on the tough questions.
No, this is the new question I'm adding, which is actually from Ben Carrick, who was on my second episode. So, if you were in a room with every single person you had met or interacted with on this journey, who is the first person you'd be drawn to and why?
Through the family law court system?
Yeah.
Or
Could be your current partner, your ex-partner, the judge, the ICO. Like, I know who I'd be talking to. I wouldn't be saying nice things.
So drawn to in either a negative or a...
Yeah, negative, positive. Anyone
way.
involved. Could be the judge, ICO, could be a barrister, could be your ex.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Obviously, one person apart from my ex that I'd certainly be drawn to in the fact that she played a bit of a snake in the whole process was my ex's mum. Yeah. She always played the if you have to do it this way, trying to draw a connection through the two lines through everything. But she was very much the snake in the grass the whole time. So I guess if we look at it from a negative point of view, she would be. From a positive position, I had a couple of mates that were really that really helped me through the whole process. So and not one. There's a couple. So
yeah. Well, could you answer that? No. Yeah. Yeah. See, again, another thing when you mentioned snake, one thing that I forgot to mention was I did mention the DV trial in my episode, but again, that by the time I went to trial, I was going to maybe 18 months later for the DV. Literally 1 week before I went to trial, she miraculously got two friends to write an affidavit. My affidavit was submitted a long time ago. Miraculously, 1 week before we go to DV trial, she has our neighbour that they didn't even get the affidavits right. So my ex claimed that I pulled out a gun, went over to the neighbour's house, was carrying on, like cops would have rocked up, right? But so she got a supporting affidavit that said, yeah, she used to hear me carrying on. Now, when we went to DV trial, they couldn't even get the story right. So when they got cross-examined, my barrister said, so do you recall Mr. Purcell coming pulling a gun on you? She's like, no. But they didn't even have the story right. But yeah, these snakes that come out of nowhere.
Easiest thing to do is tell the truth.
And that my barrister said, listen, the lies, they can't remember the lies. Yeah. All right, funny one. You're on death row, and the guard comes and asks you, what do you want for your final meal, drink, and dessert?
And I know that was coming because I was listening to your lessons, your podcast. Mate, I make a pretty mean cheesecake.
Ooh, I like cheesecake. Yeah, what's it? There's baked, and then there's two different ways to cook cheesecake.
Baked cheesecake.
Ricotta is one of my favourites, but it's also cold.
One of the things I during the whole process, I love cooking. Right.
Oh, you enjoy
Sometimes
it,
I just don't have enough time. Right. But I got into anyone that knows me, I used to make cakes, baked cheesecakes and stuff like that for my friends. Yeah.
Hey.
They just take a fucking shitload of time. But like the one thing, my nana, she used to make lemon butter.
Yeah, okay.
And
Why, is that like a dessert?
No, it's just like a spread.
Oh, spread.
Like a jam,
yeah, okay.
right? So she used to make that, and I remember that when you used to go over there. So that was great. But I don't know. Like,
what about food?
Yeah,
hot meal.
food wise, I don't know. Like, probably I'd just ask for a burger or something like a.
Where from? Give us come on, pick one. Burgers are better at Hungry Jack's.
No.
Grilled?
Yeah. I probably should say, because I give it a big rap anyway, my mate's burger joint Wollongong, his boy Oroy.
Okay.
Shout
out.
Yeah, he's got some pretty good burgers.
What's it called?
His boy Elroy.
Anyone in Wollongong? His boy or Roy?
Elroy.
Elroy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay.
he's pretty good. They're pretty good. So, that probably just my own.
And what do you wash it down with?
I used to be a beer man, but I'm more into like whiskey now.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, probably a whiskey.
Whiskey and Coke?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you, Yaz?
Oh my God, I'm
Bosnian
easy,
dish?
like,
What's Bosnian food like?
No, Bosnian.
What, stews?
Yeah, there's some stews. It's similar to Turkish cuisine.
like
Some Polish.
Rice, bread, and meat, sort of like that? Like turkey?
Not
No.
a lot of rice, but a lot of bread and meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a pita dish, which
Yeah,
is like
yeah.
a wrapped kind of meat
mixed plate
or
type thing.
cheese. There's that too. But no, I'm like a pasta girl. I'd be like some
Italian.
like pulled crab linguine, like with chili or something, and maybe wine.
Can I just say, she has gnocchi all the time.
Is he?
Yeah, like fuck. man.
Really?
I always have the same stupid dish everywhere we go.
Or at restaurants, we like just before we come here, she has a burrata. I'm like, fuck.
I have
Oh, the
my
cheese
varieties
burrata?
too.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm a bit of a foodie,
Yes, we are. foodies.
which I didn't do until this one come along.
Yes.
What did it say? Wine,
Yes.
glass of red, and dessert.
Oh, contrary to popular belief, I'm not a big chocolate girl
Really?
or ice cream.
She would obviously say my cheesecake, wouldn't she?
I do love cheesecakes. I don't know, like I like complex fine dining desserts, like a bit of fruit, a bit of something. Like I'm very like weird when it comes to desserts.
Poached pear.
Yes, remember the
Poached
poached pear
pear.
with like the wine sauce and like the caramelly. Yeah, I like
Okay.
yeah, a little bit refined perhaps.
All right, the last one, and this affects everyone in all different ways because everyone's at different chapters in their life. Yeah. Any message for your children?
Oh.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Again, knew this was coming. Do you know what? Like, to answer that, one of my psychs said to me to do voice recordings, and I've got like probably 50 odd voice recordings, and they're all different. They're me sobbing, screaming, and yelling at them. I hope one day that they will want to hear them.
Yeah.
If they don't want to hear them, they don't have to. They're just like, I guess,
Your diary.
30, 40 years ago,
Yeah.
it would be letters, you know.
Yeah.
These
That's
are
recorded,
just
yeah.
I'll be driving in the car and I'll just write it. I'll just do voice recordings. It's just simple, mate. It's simple, stupid, as they say. It's just I love yous, and that's it.
Nice,
I'll
bro.
always be here.
Nice, bro. Take your time, yes.
I'm more like the pragmatic, practical one, I guess. It would just be that parents have their own circumstances and challenges and knowledge at a certain time in life. And they come from a place of love and try and make the best decisions for you. I think all parents do. God, I can't believe it.
Take your time.
And so just whenever you hear this, however you're leaning towards in terms of either judgment or love or not judgment, just try and remember that and put yourself in their place or in their shoes if you can.
Yeah.
It depends on what age they listen to it. Yes.
Well said.
You can tell she's the teacher, can't you?
That's good.
Look, she didn't think about that. That's just straight off.
Yeah.
She's she's wonderful. But yeah, she's true. That's 100%.
Is there, before I want to make sure, because I do appreciate you guys flying up here, do we take a moment, take a couple of minutes as long as you want? Do we miss anything? Is there anything that we forgot that that you want to address?
I think everything we've said is from the heart. There's been some funny moments. I think, I was so anxious about this whole podcast. With a few times thinking, hey, I'll just message him. I can't do it,
Yeah.
and not from a point of it's too difficult. Whether I could do it. And I think everything we've said has just come from the heart and has come from exactly what needed to be said. It'll pull some punches on some people. It'll hit some people on this, and it'll certainly. I know there's people that look at my Insta. I'm sure as you've mentioned, and people this will get through to some people, and that'll go there. Will my kids see it? I hope they do, and I hope when they do see it for what it is, not for what their mum's showing them. That's all that and again, it's not doing this for them. It's doing it for me. It's doing it for the other fathers out there, other broken fathers, other broken daughters, broken sons, broken grandparents.
Exactly.
The people that will take something out of this that will maybe educate them to be better or different, or put in probably the extra effort that I couldn't put in.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, everybody's journey is unique,
Different, yeah.
and because everybody has different strengths and different weaknesses, and it depends how they're affected through this journey. So you might feel like you couldn't go on. In my eyes, he has gone way past moments where he just couldn't go on anymore. And I know he makes it sound like he gave up too early, but in my eyes, I was like, it's
you fought a lot longer
how
than
much,
me.
how many years this has taken out of our life. So I think everybody just kind of has to take their own journey and be kind to themselves, and just come from a place of love and peace, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like you've released a bit of trauma?
Yeah,
yeah,
100%, man. Like that, it was always going to be some of that. There probably, like as you said, there'll probably be some times where next week or so, or even this afternoon, I'll probably remember something and go, shit, it would have been good that.
Yeah.
Look, there's been plenty of times, you think, hey, I should confront the ex and say that, but it's not going to get anywhere. So, look, I'm happy with doing this, and I'm happy where it's gone. I'm happy that there is this platform. That's
thanks, man.
Not even happy is probably grateful. I'm grateful for what you're putting on here. I know it's hard for you, and I can tell you from myself, from some other friends that I've mentioned, you probably get some requests from a couple of mates, which I'm sure you've already got enough.
That's one, yeah.
And we're grateful for this platform, mate. But that's
I'm grateful for you coming on.
We this is where it starts.
Yeah.
This is where it starts to tell the stories, to tell the people, and then get some people with power on. It's shit that we have to have these people that are with power to change it, because it should be the people that change it. And look, it will be the people, but I'm grateful, mate. Really am.
No, thank you. Well, before I wrap up, obviously I've mentioned before, I've done 10 episodes now, and I've sat there and I've been watching them, and I obviously want to, believe it or not, my army mates, they'll back this up. I'm actually an introvert, so I don't really like humans in general and interaction. I'm a very, and anyone that knows me a long time knows that's true. And that sounds contradicting, because here I am doing a podcast, but it's because my purpose is driving me, and it's not forced. I enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
But also as an introvert, I need to make sure that, one, I'm on my A game, and it cost you guys money to fly up here, and I appreciate that. So I want to make sure that I'm asking the best questions I can, and I could be asking this off camera, but I want everyone to see that I'm genuine here. So I didn't do it for the first 10 episodes. I was just I was stressed. I was like, oh, shit. But now that I've had a bit of 6 weeks off, I've come back. I really want to make sure. So, and be black and white, I can handle it, mate. A bit of what we call in the Army AAR, after action review, what I've done well, what I could do better. But what do you reckon I could be doing better? And maybe questions, maybe what's some conclusion questions you might would have added. I'm all for good feedback, because it will make me a better presenter, so I can be better moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny you should say that, because we have that at our work. My dad, Ben Army, brings up all the
feedback.
He brings up all the stuff to implement into business. Probably what made it so successful. I'm sure Yaz will probably come up with.
Oh yeah, teacher. Yeah,
she does this all the time.
How long have you got?
C minus.
Great memory, mate. Great memory. She's got all the stuff in there. Look, I'm a simple person, mate. Like, I think the questions that you do, I mean, it's more the information getting out there. You're asking the right questions and you're letting, and I think the main part is just, I've seen some podcasts where they'll just ask questions, right? And that's shitty in the sense that you want to get the story out. And sometimes when you have direct questions about direct things, it's hard for that story to flow or that whatever, right? So I think what you've done is great. I think that, you allow the people and you jump in just when the story might be wandering or whatever. So that's great. And in terms of questions, I'm not sure if I can think of any other way you can do it better.
Just two things for me.
Yeah, good.
I was just thinking as we were going through this, just in terms of the chronological order, I thought maybe getting people to send you ahead like a summary of their case.
Yep.
And then that way you can follow it better, because even you and I, we get lost in it all, and then
True,
coming back
yeah.
to it, like it might just steer the conversation a bit quicker. But sometimes then you miss out on authentic and like emotional responses because you go and dig rather than having like a chronological.
That was, and that's a great point. So my reason behind that was the reason I try and get a brief story, but I don't want to know the full detailed story, because when the podcast's flying, I would rather the story, I'm not preempting, I know what he's about to say because I already know that timeline. Obviously, I'm not going to ask for full timeline, but so I'd rather just let it naturally roll. But in my intro, I'm thinking maybe I could do my intros better, give more a bit of a detailed timeline.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that
understand.
could help just in terms of because I know
In terms of teaching and being the speaker and then the listener, from a listener's perspective, I think it might be easier if they have like a proper intro of, first we're going to talk about these, then we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about that, so that people kind of have just a
Understand what's coming.
easier time of following the.
Yeah.
The only other thing, and I'm sorry if you have mentioned this
Don't
and
be
I
sorry.
didn't hear it, is in terms of the self-care and the things that have helped that person.
Maybe ask that.
Yeah, like towards the end, probably. Like
Yeah,
when you've got
conclusion
your
question.
questions. So, what are some of the things that have helped them?
Yeah, that's a good
Who
question.
are the people? What exactly like explicit like strategies? This is what I did. This is what helped. This is how long it went for, so that people can, have an idea. Something they could try and they didn't even think of that might help them.
Well, there
And
you go.
everybody's going to have like different responses, because you've got different things to me, to you, to everyone.
Well, this is why I wanted to record it here, not also as of episode 12 onwards. I'm gonna add that one in as well. There we go.
Yes,
So
thank you.
unfortunately, episode 11 was 5 questions. Episode 10 was 4. Episode 12 onwards is 6. But this is why I do it, because
Yeah, you're about helping people.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right, yeah.
So I rather.
100%.
I don't want to find this out at episode 25.
No, one brain's never going to be as good as you.
You know what I mean?
three
And
brains or whatever.
I haven't asked this feedback from the first 10. So, I thought I need to start now because, I was like,
You're evolving.
and Ari, that's episode 2 with Ben. I was like, oh, and I was cutting them off. Like, I was like,
Yeah,
and
I heard that, yeah.
that's why with you, I wanted to just sit back a bit, and just pick my times when they come in,
I was trying to tell you, like, don't say the arms.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all right. They
Say
can,
arm.
technical people.
But yes, that's like inexperienced speaker here.
Well, that's it.
Thank you so much.
No, well, look, on behalf of the Broken Fathers podcast and all the Broken Fathers listeners, whether they're broken daughters or broken grandmothers or broken grandparents, I'd like to thank you both for taking the time and coming on the podcast. You've both flown up here, so I do appreciate that. And I'm wishing you both nothing but positive energy moving forward. And hopefully I'll see you guys again in the future.
I appreciate it,
Same
mate. I
to
really
you.
do.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Cheers.